All right, friends. I think the streams are open. Let me double check to make sure everything is running. I'm testing in my new location, my location, if we can dual stream both horizontal and also vertical. So let me know if both of them are working, and we'll try to make sure everything is smooth. If everything's not smooth, we'll try something else. But anyways, welcome in, friends. It's good to see everybody. Happy Sin Day. It is the last day of the week. Unfortunately, we'll have to go back to work tomorrow. But until then, we're going to have fun barbecuing. We've got the vertical stream and the horizontal stream going, so you can pick your poison. The horizontal stream right now is streaming on dzdebates. I think I'm going to keep that structure for now. We'll see what I'm going to be toying around with where and how the live streams are in the next couple of weeks. Testing the software, as they say, to see what the best method of doing things is. But either way, welcome in, friends. It's great to see you. I see Sarah's with us, and Ken. I think I saw Ems sneak in, and Jay Steele. Good to see you, friends. And we've got all kinds of characters filing in now. Welcome in, friends. Maybe I think a bunch of people that was waiting in the YouTube queue to get in. Welcome in. I see Solar and Tom and Jackie and Deconstruction Junctions with us. Good to see you, Benny, my good friend. And we're going to get the cookout started here. It should be a lot of fun. Liz, welcome in. Good to see you, Liz. Also, we've got some super chats already waiting. Thank you so much for being with me late last night. It was a late one. We were up till 2 in the morning last night, 1 o'clock where I'm at. But big W for everyone who was able to stay. And Deep Burrito, good to see you tonight, friend. Deep Burrito says chef's hat on. I actually did buy a chef's hat just to play around. I don't have it with me. It's at home, but thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. And of course, we've got our friend Silver Surfer with us tonight. Good to see you, Silver Surfer. Thank you so much for the $5 super hype. I totally appreciate that. And thanks for being here to participate in the stream. I think the live streams are a lot of fun. To me, it's kind of like, I feel like it's going to a sporting event. So like when I'm not streaming, I enjoy watching the other streamers go and chirping up in the comments and whatnot. It's so much fun. It's kind of like when I was a young person, I'd go to the baseball games and we'd be chirping at the umpires, or we'd go to the basketball games and be yelling at the referees. It's just kind of something fun to do. But I'm really, really happy that I've got so many great people in this community that support my work. Although obviously there are people who who wish ill of me. I'm okay with that. You're going to get a little bit of that kind of stuff happening. That's it's pretty normal. But anyways, thank you so much for being here 2 days in a row. We were live yesterday, and we went to bed, and we woke up, and shit, we're doing it all again today. So thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate that. Now, if you're watching on TikTok, the guest box is not open because I'm live streaming from a Mac machine, which means I can't use TikTok Studio. I have to use Streamlabs. And when you stream to TikTok using Streamlabs, unfortunately, it won't let you take any guests. It's just not built into the system yet. So it is what it is. But there's a link on the screen, tinyurl.com/dzguest. You can put that into your browser or go to the link in the description of the video if you're on Facebook or YouTube or whatnot. And you can join in the conversation yourself. You don't have to sign up for anything. You don't have to give me your email address. You ain't got to do any of that stuff. All you got to do is put the link in that you see on the screen. Put that link in the in the address bar of your browser. I'm like, why is my brain farting? Put the link in the address bar and you'll be good to go. I see the vertical live stream. I'm checking to see if the horizontal live stream is up. Does anyone else see the horizontal live stream? Can you see if it's running right now? I don't know if I see the horizontal live stream just yet. Of course, I'm on my phone. It might be delayed, but we'll give me a second. We'll check that out. Space Lord of 75. Good to see you, friend. I appreciate that. Says DZ stream, third channel idea, diagonal format stream. That'd be amazing. Yes, we're obviously going to need to do a diagonal format live stream. And B-Boop, I assume this is the, this is a different B-Boop than I talked to before. B-Boop, thank you for the $4.99 super chat. It says, thank you for all you do. Your videos are therapeutic. Well, B-Boop, I really appreciate that. I'm glad that my videos were able to give you some level of therapy. Sometimes it is kind of cathartic to see somebody get cooked on their nonsense. So I appreciate that. And Stuart Dent, thank you so much for the $4.99 super chat. Says, do you think that religious people have lower IQ? Have you read The Bell Curve? A wonderful contents. So there have been some correlations between religious people and intelligence, and it's hard to nail it down specifically, but in some of the studies that I've seen, it seems to be that when you grow up and are taught to believe in a particular religion or to believe in a religion, it kind of opens your mind up to the idea of fantasies and conspiracy theories and things happening that aren't really possible. And so it just frames your way of thinking differently than normal people. Normal people live in like a rational world where there are like obviously hard limits on things. You know what I mean? But does it actually make you dumber? I don't know if it necessarily makes you dumber. I think it's probably more likely that people that are less intelligent are more prone to believe religious nonsense. That's my take on it. I haven't read a ton of studies on it. I've read only a couple of them, but my personal opinion is that's probably the case. Is that the people that are religious? I don't think the religion makes them dumber. I just think the people that lack some of the cognitive tools to do adequate research and adequate investigations end up being fooled. You know what I mean? Good question, though. And Amir's with us tonight. Good to see you, Amir. Thank you so much for the $5 super thanks. I appreciate that. And high five to you, my friend. And Tom's with us. Thank you so much, Tom. Tom says, live chat equals Justin the Gladiator in the Coliseum. I appreciate that. Yeah, being in the live chat is a fun time. I enjoy it. I hope you guys have fun in the live chat. And Tally, good to see you, friend. Tally says, it's like a DZ weekend retreat. Well, thank you so much, Tally Beck. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for supporting the show, and thank you for the super chat. It's always good to see you. And hopefully you can have some fun roasting, some of the believers with us. The guest box is still open. We don't have any opposition yet. I know the live stream just started, and it might take a minute to get some guests, so I apologize that we're, just getting warmed up, if you know what I mean. But we have got some super chats still yet. Sonus Percussion, thank you so much for the 666.66 ARS. I don't know what currency that is, but I really appreciate the support. Big W 666, Hail Sonus, and Hail Nero says, greeting from Argentina. Oh, that explains it. It's obviously Argentinian dollars. Okay, greetings from Argentina. My country has such a high inflation that I can be extra heathen with the super chat. That's crazy. But fair enough. Yeah, a dollar from country to country obviously have drastically different monetary values. But we appreciate the support, Big W. And also Miss Carhu, thank you so much for the $5.99, it looks like Euro chat. I appreciate that, Miss Carhu. And I think we got one more super chat waiting, which is from our friend Chip. Thank you so much, Chip. I appreciate the $1.99 super chat. Oh, hold on. make sure we clear this properly. Uh-oh. I think we got a frozen super chat in the house. What's going on? Oh boy. Oh, it may be just still delayed. Interesting. Okay, my super chat system got delayed there for a minute. Maybe dual streaming is putting too much of a burden on the system. We'll find out. We will find out. But Chip says the bell curve has been thoroughly debunked. Interesting. I'd love to know more about this. Send me some resources in the Discord if you have any. I'd love to read up on this. I've read quite a few psychological studies, and I find them greatly intriguing. But I'm no psychologist. I have to lean on the experts, obviously. This is not my area of expertise. And I try. Sometimes I don't try very as hard as I should, but I try to stay in my lane if possible. Minuteman, thank you so much for the super chat. Minuteman says, watching and hearing people cheer Joe Biden's cancer announcement today reminds me of how fucked we are as a society. Praise Doug. Well, shit. Holy shit, Minuteman. I didn't know that Joe Biden had cancer. I didn't know that he was diagnosed and it was announced today. This is all stuff I'm literally learning right this minute. And you're telling me that there are people cheering for a cancer diagnosis. That's crazy. That's crazy. But that's the toxic political climate that we're in. You know what I mean? I hate to say it, but it's at this point, it's kind of expected. They've been primed to be full of hate. And their book, their holy book teaches them to do it. Evan, my friend, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, glad you got some rest. We're ready for a cookout. Listen, we're going to barbecue. We just need some opposition. The guest box is open. There's a link in the description you can click on, and you can be a guest at tinyurl.com/guestdz. Or you can just type this address and put it into your browser, and we'll get you into the conversation. We got a super chat coming in from PJ. PJ? I think it means PJ. I could be wrong. PJ, thank you for the $5 super chat. It says, really interesting thought. I met a very intelligent Christian who flipped houses for a living, yet thought Masaru Emote's water experiment was legit. Listen, I'm learning all kinds of stuff tonight. I don't even know what this water experiment is. Now I have to look at this up. It's the Masaru Emoto's water experiment. Interesting. This is the fun thing about doing the live streams is like I keep learning things that I've never heard before. And the reality is, the world of apologetics is quite full of like fanciful interpretations of various experiments. But it says the Masaru Emoto's water experiment explored the potential impact of human thoughts and emotions on water. Oh, good grief. He claimed that when water was exposed to positive words or thoughts, it formed beautiful symmetrical ice crystals. Bullshit. While negative influences resulted in... Okay. I've read enough already from Wikipedia to know that I can guarantee beyond a shadow of doubt that actual scientists have already followed up on this and said that this is an absolute piece of bullshit. But for now, since I haven't read those studies, I'm just going to claim I have no knowledge of the event. But yeah, water reacting to negative or positive words seems preposterous, ridiculous. Leah, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Says them. What shows do you want? Me. I binge watch Deconstruction Zone and try to be at every live I can because my show is on. Well, thank you so much, Leah. I appreciate you being here. Thank you for super chatting and supporting the show. And we have a lot of dedicated viewers here. I'm so impressed with the amount of people who take the time to be here at the live stream because you could be doing anything. You don't have to be here. You could be out with your friends. You could, I don't know, you go shopping or be eating out. But heck, you're over here hanging out with me, and I greatly appreciate you spending the one thing, the one limited resource that we all have and we all know is limited, which is our time. So I appreciate you guys spending it with me. And McCraves is a newest member of the Kraken Crew Elite. Big W, Marcaves. I think it's Marcaves. Well, thank you for joining the crew. And TM, good to see you tonight, friend, says, even if it was all real, Jesus didn't get his life. He just gave up a long weekend. That's nothing. Give his life. That's that's not nothing, but it's not quite, it's not worth quite all the fuss. So this is such a point, because this idea, like when we talk about the human suffering in the Bible, Christians would be really quick to point out, well, like the human suffering isn't all that consequential, because obviously, they suffered and they, died and went to heaven, or some nonsense like that, right? But like if the human suffering in the Bible like isn't all that meaningful, because like people just get to go to heaven, then like that means Jesus' suffering was like not all that consequential. He just gave up a bad weekend. Like he's God. He didn't actually die. He knew he was going to come back to life if he's like his body became unanimated. So he didn't really give shit up. Like if you know you're going to come back to life 2 days later, then you didn't really die. And if you knew that was going to happen, then shit, what are you upset about? But who cares? If I had a guarantee that if I died tonight that I would resurrect 2 days later, I'd take that every day of the week, especially if it was going to help somebody out. Anyways, Jennifer, thank you so much for the super chat. Jennifer says, thank you. We need common sense now more than ever. I think we do. So the age-old saying is common sense is not so common, and I think that's the case. Joyful is letting me know that there's no guest box on TikTok, and that is true, Joyful. We're streaming from Streamlabs. Streamlabs does not have a way to integrate the guest box, so you have to join through the link on the screen in order to guest up. And I think we've got somebody in our guest box, so we'll grab them here in just a second. Ross Settles, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Says, Justin, do you think being called a sinner is a kink to some Christians? My dad got so upset that my mom's liberal church didn't call him a bad person. Oh no, where's the rest of the super chat? It's missing from my screen because I need to make my screen bigger, apparently. Hold on 1 second. We'll fix this up real quick. There we go. That's a little better. Now I got to reframe my boxes real quick. Sorry about that. There we go. Now the super chat's a little more manageable. There we go. My dad got so upset that my mom's liberal church didn't call him a bad person that deserves hell. So this is actually the interesting thing with like liberal churches. Liberal churches are trying to slowly like get rid of this notion of hell. Like they recognize how kind of a toxic of an idea it is. And so like a lot of these liberal churches are just like, you don't need that anymore, right? They're really departing from like the parts of the Bible that they don't like. You know what I mean? But I mean that I recognize that. I've seen that before. You know what I mean? So, oh shit. I'm sorry. Let me read 3 more super chats and we get our guest in here. Sorry, I got backed up here. Tom G says, do you continue to research talking points, contradictions from the Bible beyond the ones you have noted? Probably a bottomless well. I have. There's a couple that are on my hit list to go through that I can add to the cheat sheet. I just haven't done it yet. I'll be putting those up shortly. But yeah, I do. I never stop doing research. To me, it's like the most exciting part about what I'm doing is I get to do continual research. The only drawback is I still have to go to work. You know what I mean? I got to go do normal people things. And Chip says, heads up, longer super chats are covering your face in the horizontal stream. I appreciate that. I did notice that actually. I might make them a little bit smaller here. So I appreciate the heads up that my head is being covered up. I'm not so concerned about that, but we do want to make these things like more of a normal size so they don't look weird on the screen. I'm gonna shrink that down a little bit. There we go. That should be good. Horizontal is big anyways. It doesn't have to be all crazy or anything like that. And then Bruce, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, do you ever do is this passage from the Bible or Quran? I'd love to see that. P.S. YouTube autocorrect sucks dog shit. Praying to Doug gets it fixed. So I talked to Joel Reed's Bible recently about doing an episode where we are doing exactly that, where we're going to go through the Bible and have like a game show where we're like, is this the Bible? Is this the Quran? Is this something else? We haven't got around to it yet because both of us are working a job and streaming, so it's just hard to do stuff that's not already part of the existing schedule. But it is in the works, my friend. We are working on it. All right, let's get our first guest in here. It looks like we've got with us somebody with no name. What should we call you, no name? Hello?
Hello, you can hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. How you doing?
Okay, all right, good. I'm kind of on the Virgin Islands.
Yeah, well, what should we call you?
This is my first time doing this. I don't know how to type it in. My name is Tafari.
Steph?
Tafari, Tafari.
Something like that. Okay. So, are you at least 18 and do you believe in some kind of a God?
Well, yes, I'm over 18 and I don't really believe in the Bible, but I really have a question that will be on my mind.
Sure.
And I think you'll be the right guy that will answer this.
Okay.
When I'm talking to Christians or whatever, I don't keep hearing them saying that Jesus came to die for our sins. And I don't keep asking them where they get that from because I never read that from Jesus' mouth. So that's something that comes from Jesus' mouth, or that's something that was the letter that was in there.
Well, I mean, there are definitely passages in the New Testament that talk about Jesus dying for people's sins, right? So that's why Jesus says that those who believe in him and are baptized will have their sins forgiven. Same thing with Paul, right? So Paul has this idea that Jesus is the atoning sacrifice. I think what's probably the most clear text about Jesus dying for his sins is the book of Hebrews. The book of Hebrews has this idea that that really fleshes out this idea that Jesus is basically like Leviticus 16, the Day of Atonement, but for forever. Like there's not going to be another Day of Atonement after that. Of all the books in the New Testament, I think the book of Hebrews makes the clearest case. Hebrews 1:3 starts out with that whole thing. It says, when he has made purification for sins, he sat down at the right hand of the majesty on high. Right? So there's this idea that he was the final sacrifice. Hebrews chapter 2 says he became like his brothers and sisters in every respect so that he might become a merciful and faithful high priest in the service of God to make sacrifice of atonement for the sins of the people. So there's this idea in Hebrews that gets fleshed out, like especially in chapter 9, where there's this, like, you need blood to forgive sins. And since Jesus's blood was divine, that means there's no further need for a blood sacrifice after Jesus.
But those were things that people said about him. But they didn't ever hear any word where Jesus said that I was sent here to die for man's sins.
Okay, so kind of. He addresses it, I would say, in kind of like a sideways manner. So if you look at like the parable of the tenant, the wicked tenants, do you know that one?
Yeah.
Okay. So in the parable of the tenants, Jesus is likening the Jewish people to the wicked tenant farmers, and God is sending the prophets to go collect essentially the rent from the tenant farmers, and they're killing the prophets. And then God says, finally, you know what? I'll send my son. Surely they'll listen to my son. And then they kill the son too. And then after they kill the son in the parable, the wicked tenant farmers are dealt with. So there's this idea even in Jesus's parables where he's suggesting that like me being the Son of God must die for your sins, right? So he also says, if you remember, in both Matthew and Mark, he talks about what authority the Son of Man has. Yeah. And there's one line in Matthew where he says, so that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on the earth to forgive sins. So there seems to be baked into his ministry this idea that part of his goal here is to forgive sins. But
Okay, but you like
I would say
okay.
the final what like the Catholics would say, like the final piece of argumentation from Jesus is what he said during the Last Supper when he held up the cup and says, you know, this is my body broken for you. Take of it and eat. And then he says, you know, holds up the cup. This is, you know, the blood of my covenant, which has been poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. Right. So this is kind of this Last Supper idea, I think, is where everything kind of comes to a crescendo.
Okay, but there is nothing where he plainly said that I came to die for people's sin.
Well, I think the clearest passage in Jesus's own words is what he said during the Last Supper, you know, that my blood
Okay.
is going to be poured out for you. And then remember in John chapter 6, he also says that unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, so on and so forth, right? So there's definitely an idea from Jesus himself that he has to die, and that he has to die for us to be made whole.
Okay, thank you. One last thing. How do I join your super chat and stuff like that?
So to send a super chat, you just have to be watching on YouTube, and in the little bar where you can comment, on the right side of that bar is like a little dollar sign. If you click the dollar sign, it'll let you send a super chat.
Okay, and then I go like, how do I be like a member?
Oh, just go to my main page, and under my profile, there's a button that says join. Also, in the description of this video, there's a link where you can join as well.
Okay, thank you. I don't listen to you a lot. You know, I really like the stuff that you'll be saying.
Hey, man, I appreciate it. Thanks for supporting and watching the channel.
Yeah, man, I'm a big fan of yours. Big fan. Oh, man, I listen to you a lot. Oh.
Well, I really appreciate that, and I appreciate the question.
Okay, thank you very much.
Absolutely. Cheers, friend. Questions are fun. Let me grab one or two super chats here. We'll move on to our next guest. We got a couple people in the guest box now. And Carrie says, shameless plug. Listen, Carrie, thank you for the super chat. And there's no problem with a shameless plug. You can plug. Says, my granddaughter Emma graduates high school tomorrow. I'm one proud Mimi. Big W for watching our young ones grow up and get through the achievements. It really brings joy to my heart to watch the young people, you know, get through the stages of life. It's almost like I get to relive it myself when I'm watching the young people do it, except they're the ones making the mistakes. I already made those mistakes. I'm not going to do it a second time. And Unashamed Apostate, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, fools dine on their own dust. The wise feast on the fountain of Doug. The Proverbs of Doug. Absolutely. Listen, Doug is the firm foundation. Ask yourself, what does every house get built upon? Every house you've ever been to, what does it get built on? It gets built on a foundation. What are foundations built from? You all know the answer. Foundations are built from stone, because Doug is a foundation. And let me fix this super chat screen too while I'm at it. There we go. So we can get the big super chats in here in red. Sorry about that. Give me 1 second to get this sorted. It's always a little bit of work at the beginning of the stream to get everything just the way you want it, unless you're streaming at home with a continuous setup. Anyways, Super Sweaty Nerd Man, fun name. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Says either God exists or God doesn't exist. Law of excluded middle. If God doesn't exist, then God is not imaginary. No, that's not true. I already disagree. Premise number 2. If God does not exist, then he is in fact imaginary. It's something that you imagine, just like the tooth fairy is imaginary. Unicorns are imaginary. The idea that something is imaginary just means that people can imagine it. Anyways, premise number 3, therefore, either God exists or God is not imaginary. And you'd be wrong. That's an adorable syllogism, but you failed pretty hard. Try again. Steve, well, good to see you crashing out again, Steve. Thanks for the $10 super chat. I love watching Christians crash out while paying me money. It says, not using any preferences, what was immoral and wrong to do in the Bible? Are you asking me what the Bible says or what I say? Because I don't believe that there are objective morals. So what you're saying is using non-objective morals, what was immoral about the Bible. But being that I don't believe objective morals exist, I can't tell you what is objectively immoral because there are no objective morals. You're never going to come up here and tell me what they are. You cannot demonstrate that objective morals exist, but you're always welcome to crash out and send me super chats. Squidgert, good name. Thank you for the super chat. Says, I would argue we are still Job or Job. Humanity is Job, which explains all the suffering and God being absent, or is all BS. So that's a fair point. I think what you're suggesting is like the condition that we find ourselves in the book of Job is the shithole condition we find ourselves in right now. You're not entirely wrong. I mean, it's pretty damn close. But you're right. It's a crazy thing to think about that what's happening in the book of Job is literally still happening. It's almost like the book is fiction. And Adele, my friend, thank you so much for the super chat. Says, cheers. Thank you for the continued content, friend. Well, Adele, thank you for the continued support. I really appreciate that. And thank you for being here for another night of cooking. And Texas Panhandler, Big W, thank you for the 1999, says, Doug be praised. I'm finally home for a stream. Can't think of anything clever to say. Enjoy some cash. Well, thank you so much for being here and supporting the stream. I really do appreciate it. And we'll grab one more super chat. We'll get our guest in here. Jason C., thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Says, thank you for all the good work, team. I agree. We are a team, my friends. We all here. We're part of a community. We're part of a team. And we're going to be doing this thing together. That's what we're doing. So thank you so much. All right. Our next guest is, it looks like Vaughn. Vaughn, are you with us?
Yes.
How you doing, Vaughn?
Good. Just had a question.
Sure.
What's your opinion on like religion in general, like just general study of it?
So, like, religion in general, to me, I mean, I think is quite interesting. I think there are some religions that are useful and some that are not useful. There are some that are dangerous and some that are not dangerous. Like, there's a lot of Eastern religions. I'm thinking like Buddhism, which doesn't really have a God concept, but they do have a sense of like spiritualness. I think that can be helpful for some people. I think the Abrahamic religions tend to be quite dangerous because they invented this authoritarian God figure that can't be questioned. And it's full of like moral pronouncements that are like theoretically objective. Until you read them, if you sit down with a Christian and you read all of these objectively moral rules, they'll find all kinds of reasons to say that somehow they were good back then, but they're bad today, which just tells me that they're not actually objectively moral.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's all.
Yeah, it's just because I study religion from a secular view, so just appreciated the answer, Justin. Thank you. Doing good work, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. Big W, Vaughn. Studying religion as a non-theist is difficult because you're literally surrounded by people who are believers, right? And you've got to navigate those waters, and typically while trying to maintain peace with the people you're surrounded by. Boris, welcome to Kraken Crew Elite, and Jay, welcome to the Kraken Crew Elite. Big W. And also Hammond, thank you so much for the super chat. Hammond says, is it possible that the original story of Jesus cursing the fig tree was longer? It could have been him first trying to revive the fruit from the tree, but he wasn't able to, then he cursed it. So there's here's the problem with the cursing of the fig tree, because like the story could actually make sense. Like if you believe it is kind of a prophetic cursing about the nation of Israel, it does make a lot of sense. But as soon as you have that little added bit where it says the figs were out of season, now you got some weird stuff going on there. And certainly there are, there are some explanations for that when you read the literature, but none of them I think are very compelling. But Good Shepherd, welcome back for the second night in a row. Let's see if this goes any better than the first night. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's going to go great tonight.
Awesome. Well, I can hear you. You can hear me. Can the audience all hear Good Shepherd? Well, your audio is a little bit quiet to me, but it might be okay for everybody else. And
See
give
if I can
just.
turn it up.
It's okay. We'll give YouTube a second
Can you hear
to.
me?
Well, I can hear you. I just want to make sure everyone can hear you clearly.
Okay.
I'm just waiting for a
How are you
response. You know, I'm doing good. So how are you doing?
Good.
Good.
I'm
So,
great, man. You were close last night. I could hear you. You said Alabama. You were in the right region.
Was that close? Okay.
Wrong state. Wrong state. Right region.
Okay, fair enough. All right. So, anyways, Good Shepherd. I assume
But-
you're at least 18 and you're a believer, right?
I'm 18. Yes. Or I'm over 18. I'm
Right.
in my 40s.
Right. Yeah. Okay. And like, what would be the most compelling evidence or argument for the Christian God being real?
I think the justice and mercy that we see in the Bible is really good evidence. And I think I've heard you talk about a story or a passage of scripture that you've kind of have misrepresented. And
Which one?
not intentionally, maybe. I'm not saying that, but I think it'll demonstrate just the justice that we see in the mercy. Remember when the prophet Gad is talking to David?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's just a good example
Of what?
of his justice and his mercy that we see.
How?
Because of, well, okay, what are the things that God hates?
Well,
What does
if I
he
remember,
abhor?
Proverbs or Psalms chapter 6 or 8 mentions there are 7 things that God detests, right? Let me find it real quick. Let's see. It might be, I'm looking at Psalm 6 and it's not in there. Let me see if it was Psalm 8. It's the one that says there are 7 things that the Lord detests. That's shit. It's neither of them. Now I just gotta Google it. Oh, Proverbs 6.
Did you have Google ins?
My brain got the number right, but it was Proverbs 6, not Psalm 6. Okay, try this again. Yeah, so Psalm 6. Let's see. There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. So I would imagine those are things that he dislikes.
Yeah, there's definitely another one. What did David do wrong?
Well,
Why-
it's not
why
it's
would-
not
why
entirely
would he-
clear what he did wrong. It is clear that taking the census of the people of Israel was something that he wasn't
Exactly.
supposed to do, but we're not specifically told in the law of Moses why that was a bad thing. We're kind of left to assume that there must be some part of the dialogue between God and David that we don't know about.
No, we are told, and it's found in that passage in Proverbs you read.
In Proverbs 6.
Yes,
Okay, and where is it?
but you were reading it. Well, you were reading it. Were you using physical eyes or spiritual eyes?
I'm reading the words on the page. So my understanding is that words
yeah.
have meanings, and you don't really need a spirit to know what a word means.
Well, oh man, I don't know how I can help if you can't read it spiritually.
I can tell you what the individual
Right.
words mean. We can use a dictionary to tell you what they mean.
Yeah, but you have to do that in context. And Justin, I just fail to see.
How come you can't tell me
How
what they mean?
you
Use
fail
your
to
spiritual
see.
eyes.
I'm just trying, I guess because I'm trying to help teach, and you can give a man a fish or you can teach him how to fish.
It's crazy that you think you're going to teach me something
So
up here.
when we use your spiritual eyes, yeah, when you use your spirit,
So you literally broke one of the 7 things God hates.
which one is that?
Having haughty eyes and testifying falsely.
Oh, no, that's you're misreading it too. Next you're going to be doing something like David did. Justin,
So
you
so
can't
tell me
just go
where the
around
sin
the
of
world.
David is listed.
Exactly. You can't just walk around the world doing pluses and takeaways all willy-nilly.
No,
God
pluses
does
and
not like
takeaways are
counting.
mathematical values. You don't do them willy-nilly. You follow the rules of math.
Oh,
So I'm still
God
waiting for
does
you to
not
supply
like counting.
I'm still waiting for you to supply the part where it says that taking a census is a sin.
Because God hates counting.
Where's that in the Bible?
Have you ever seen Sesame Street?
I sure have. Yeah, I watched Sesame Street. I'm waiting for the verse though.
And the and what's the count? He's a demon.
The Count is not a demon. The Count is quite literally a fictional character.
Like Doug.
No, Doug's real. But I'm still waiting for the Bible verse that says counting people is evil.
Well, you're not going to find it with your physical eyes. You have to learn to read with your spiritual ones.
Show me the verse. Give me the verse and you can read it to
But-
us with your spiritual eyes.
Well, okay, well, you'll have to flip over to. Do you know there's another story of Gad visiting David?
Yes, it's the same story. It's in 1 Chronicles 21.
Right. Do you know
Same story.
the difference there?
Yeah, the difference is
Yeah,
that the
but do you
punishment
notice the
is different. The punishment that is the first option changes. In one edition, it's 7. In Chronicles, it's 3. Why do I feel like you're not for real?
Exactly.
Why do I feel
God
like you're...
hates numbers. God hates numbers. He hates counting. He hates addition and subtraction.
Sounds
And
about
that's
right.
the clue you need.
All right, so we finally came to an agreement then. The agreement is that God doesn't know how to account. That seems clear in the text. You and I agree there.
Oh man, I can't do it.
I know, you're obviously a troll.
Justin,
It's
I love
okay.
you, man.
That was a
You're
good
great.
troll.
You're great.
That was a good troll. I thought you were real.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate you, man. You've been a big help to me in the last year that I've been listening, or close to a year, I guess.
I
appreciate
appreciate
you, man.
that, and I know deconstructing's hard, but I'll help any way I can.
Oh, honestly, it hasn't been that hard. I'm similar to you. I'm a seminary student, and I've left the faith, and it's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Yep.
The hard part is, relationships you lose, but or
Right,
they
that's
get
true.
strained.
Don't
Oh,
worry, a lot of
man.
those friends that you make in seminary will reconnect with you later when they leave the religion.
Yeah, oh for sure. Let's hope family comes around too. That's the
They
one
will.
that I worry about the most. But
Some of them will.
yeah, I hope so too. But hey, man.
Well, listen, man, I'm
I
rooting for you.
appreciate you. Love what you're doing, and thanks a lot for it.
Thank you, man. Have a good one. He actually trolled me pretty good. I really thought he was legit. That was really interesting. But big W for following the data in seminary where it leads. Keenan, thank you so much for the super chat. Keenan says, biologist Stephen Jay Gould's The Measure of Man cooks the bell curve. See, now I got to go read this whole... I'm going to put this in my browser. Say Stephen Jay Gould. Bell curve. Looks like I'll be reading about bell curves later tonight. Thank you, Ken, for the information. I appreciate that. And Rachel, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, best weekend ever, cooking Saturday and Sunday. We're doing it. We're cooking 2 days in a row. So big W for getting to have some extra barbecue. And thank you for being here 2 days in a row. Also, Julian, thank you for being here 2 days in a row. Say this for me, Justin. Ashley Mitchell, call in to debate the existence for your God. Your husband is watching. Sounds like a call out to me. Someone's getting called to the carpet. And Phil O, thank you for the Friday super chat, says, if God created everything, we need to have a serious talk about my prostate gland. He put that there. He put it there where you're not supposed to use it, but it's going to get used. I mean, for the thing he doesn't want you to use it for. C. Willie, welcome to the Kraken Crew Elite. And Michael, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. It says, Christians who come here to be cooked are known as masochists. How did I never think of this yet? Yes, they're masochists. This is an amazing play on words. Thank you for this. God made animals to be Adam's companion. I guess God wanted Adam to be a petophile. 1,000,000%. Read Genesis 2. God created the animals to be a companion to Adam. And remember, he was born with a schlong. Obviously, a real companion. It just didn't work out, you know? Solar says, spiritual eyes sounds like a D&D spell. Indeed, it does. And Crom of Doug, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. Says, someone gifted me a sub last night and I didn't notice, so I wanted to say thank you to whomever did that. My B-day is Tuesday. Doug will provide. Doug knew you needed it. He brought that birthday win just for you. Hail, Doug. And Dexter sending out 5. Shit, it was probably from Dexter. Dexter sending out 5 subbies. I really, really appreciate that, Dexter. Super generous. Good to see you tonight, my friend. I really appreciate you being here. And I just got a couple more super chats, and then we're gonna jump right into our next conversation. Our next super chat is going to be, let's see, from Blind Neighborhood Nerd. Oop, 1 second. Let me clear this one. There we go. Hey, love these lives. One day, can you show us your robots? Yeah, I can. Definitely. I've got lots of videos of robots. Maybe I'll upload some content of machines and robots sometimes. I don't know if all of my followers will like it, but I love them. Robots are super cool. So I can definitely do that sometime. I got you. And God's Grim Reaper, thank you for the super chat, says, all hail Doug, the God superior to all other gods, including Jesus. Jesus is garbage. And I couldn't agree more. We are in violent agreement with that. Praise Doug. Rock solid. Get stoned for Doug, friends. Doug will rock your world. And Justin Pettyjohn, or Petty1, thank you so much for the $9.99 super chat. Big W. I appreciate that. And our friend Displaced Gamer is in the house tonight. Good to see you, Displaced. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Premise 1, if we were in the new covenant, we'd know God's glory. It'd be written in our hearts. Yes, exactly. That's Jeremiah and Ezekiel. Premise number 2, I don't know God's glory. Conclusion, we are not in the new covenant. I couldn't say it better. This is why I love reading Jeremiah 31. It clearly talks about this new covenant as though everyone's going to know it. It's going to be unavoidable, right? But it's not. We don't know it. It didn't happen because it's all BS. That's a good syllogism, Displaced Gamer. I'm going to use that one. Make sure we get that on the deconstruction cheat sheet. And Justin again coming in. Great name, by the way. I appreciate the $10 super chat. It says, what the heck is spiritual eyes? Spiritual eyes is something that Christians claim to have when they need the text to mean something than what it actually says. That's what a spiritual eyes are. But that's what they're talking about. Although that last guest was just, having a go at me. He was just joking. He didn't have any spiritual eyes. All right, let's get our next guest in here. Welcome back, Praise.
Hey, can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you.
I appreciate you having me, Justin. Thanks for having me.
Sure. So, Praise, I already know you're over the age of 18, and I already know that you're a believer. So we can skip those 2 questions and go right into the third question, which is, what is the most compelling evidence or argument for the Christian God being real?
Sure. So I'm going to use an argument from Jerome Daniel Schoon's paper. Basically, objective moral progress demonstrates objective morality via the abolishment of slavery by Christianity. These moral properties are unique, and they're known as sui generis.
Can you show that objective morals exist?
Yes, and through objective moral progress.
Well, what makes it objective?
That it's independent of human opinion.
But how do I know that they're objective? Like when you're saying there's objective moral progress, how do I know that those are objective morals being progressed?
They're properties.
Properties of what?
So they have alethic and semantic properties, and they also have
but I said properties of what?
Properties of moral facts.
Okay, and how do we know that moral facts exist?
Because to negate them assumes that there is a moral fact to begin with.
No, not even close. It's like saying negating the tooth fairy is an admission that the tooth fairy exists. That's silly.
If you're saying there's no moral facts, that makes it a moral fact, so it's self-defeating.
No, it is not. Saying something doesn't exist doesn't make it exist. You cannot believe that this is a good argument.
You're not listening.
I am listening.
If you're saying there is no moral facts is a moral fact. You're claiming there's moral fact.
Claiming a statement of existence is not a moral claim.
It is a moral claim. You're saying there are no moral facts. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's a factual claim about something that doesn't exist.
You're assuming it's. See, you don't understand. It's self-defeating. If you're saying there's no moral,
it's not self-defeating.
It is.
Making existence claims are not the same as making moral claims. This is why you get devastated on every live stream you join, because you don't actually know how words work.
Why don't you actually address the argument?
So I actually did address the argument by asking you actual questions about the argument that you clearly don't even understand. You're just reading from somebody's prepared talking points. You couldn't even define what a moral fact is. You're just saying that they must exist. Before you tell me that properties of moral facts exist, I'm going to need you to demonstrate that moral facts do exist.
Okay, raping babies is immoral. There's a moral fact.
It's subjective.
No, it's a moral fact.
It's subjective. It's opinion.
Is it objectively subjective?
Objectively subjective is not related to morality. Saying that something is objectively... Pay attention. Saying that something is objectively true is not the same as saying that something is objectively moral. Moral is not the same thing as truth claims. If I said it's objectively true that you're talking to me, that is not a moral claim. That's an objective claim about the facts of reality. I'm asking you, what is the evidence that objective morals exist, not objective facts?
And I told you, basically, it's summed up to moral realism. They have a real. They're in reality. That's why they're true, because they're
prove
real.
It.
I just did. Raping babies is immoral.
You used a word that you don't know. You just said moral realism proves it. It doesn't prove it.
You know what moral realism is?
So what I'm saying is that all morals are social conventions. We make them up using our own brain matter. I'm asking you for the evidence that the morals don't come from the human brain. What's the evidence of that?
I told you the properties of moral facts.
You can't say that moral facts exist because there are properties of moral facts. You can't use the properties of moral facts to claim that morals exist. That's circular. It's begging the question. Again, this is why you get dog walked in every single debate you ever get in, is because you don't actually know how to have a conversation and you don't actually know how words work.
And shit on your argument, Justin.
I cooked you on slavery. Dr. Josh cooked you on slavery. You've got cooked on slavery every single time that you've engaged in the conversation. And it always ends in you crashing out like an infant. And you're doing it right now. He's crashing out right now. Go ahead and crash out. Let everyone know what kind of a person you are.
Hey, Justin, I'm going to read a quote from a ancient Near East scholar, Michael Lefebvre. The general consensus...
It's crazy that we're talking about moral facts, and now you want to pivot to slavery because you're getting cooked on moral facts. I'm trying to figure out why you're trying to pivot so hard from the moral facts conversation. Justin, is it because you're getting cooked?
Are you being a pussy right now?
Why are you shouting into the microphone? Do you not have the patience of the Holy Spirit? Are you not capable of having an adult conversation? You're talking over me the entire time. I'm the
No,
I'm literally not. Read Colossians 3:12 for me,
Go
would you?
ahead and kick me, Justin. Go ahead and kick me like a
Go
pussy
ahead
you are.
and read Colossians 3:12 for me.
Let everyone know what a pussy you are, because I'm going to fucking destroy you tonight.
Look at this guy crashing out so hard. Every time you make these crazy claims, you're just digging your hole deeper and deeper. I'll read it for you. Colossians 3:2 says, or 3:12, therefore, as God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Do you think that you're clothing yourself right now with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience?
Righteous indignation. That's what it is. You're evil.
Show me where that's in the Bible.
Jesus called out the Pharisees. He rebuked them.
Are you Jesus?
I can fall in line with Jesus. I mimic Jesus. That's what a Jesus follower does.
Did Jesus say that you should treat people like shit?
Yeah, if you're evil, you're an evil piece of shit.
Are you drunk right now? Why are you slurring your words?
No, you're drunk. You're spiritually drunk.
He is. He's drunk. I called it. This guy's sitting over here on his computer, raging and drinking like a fish. And he gets on my live stream to cuss me out because he's so mad. He's so mad that he gets cooked in every debate that he's ever a part of. It's crazy to me.
It's like you had to boot
you got absolutely annihilated.
You booted me like a little bee.
No, I didn't.
Can I actually?
So I'm still actually waiting right now for you to lay out an argument for why moral facts exist objectively.
They're supererogatory.
That's circular. That's like saying there's a unicorn that exists that's circling the planet Venus.
Ontology, Justin. You don't know what the fuck you're talking.
That's like saying there's a unicorn that's circling the planet Venus right now, and I know that the unicorn exists because the unicorn has properties. It's a circular argument. It doesn't make any sense. So I'm waiting for the argument that the moral facts actually exist. Praise, do you think that there's a reason like why people kick you from live streams? Or do you think that you're just
moral properties are
do you think that you're always just being abused?
Which fucking question, you little bitch.
This guy's really showing the love of Christ right now. I think that you just converted the whole chat. Everybody in the chat, put a 1 in the comments if Praise I Am just converted you to Christianity right now. Let's see if this works. I'm waiting for some 1s to file in. Let's see if there's some 1s.
You are evil shit.
I'm told that the people who have the Holy Spirit are supposed to be full of like patience and love and kindness. In fact, Galatians says the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I don't hear any of those things. I'm actually inclined to believe at this point that you don't have the Holy Spirit.
Justin, why are you running away from me, coward?
I'm not running from anybody. You're literally on my live stream. If I was running away from you, I would be avoiding the actual conversation. But that's actually what you're doing. You're the one crashing out on my live stream.
I'm going to destroy your arguments. I just told you.
I'm still waiting for the argument that the properties of the thing that exists actually exists. So I know you're so excited to get booted so you can be the victim. You're dying to be the victim because that's all you have. You don't actually have a good argument. You just have a victim complex.
I told you the argument. You didn't refute.
I'm waiting for the evidence that objective morals exist.
Non-natural properties.
And the idea that they have properties isn't actual evidence, because before something can have properties, they have to actually exist. So you can't use the properties of somebody or something for its existence.
They're non-natural properties. I told you 20 times in a row now. They're non-natural.
What is a property of a moral?
Non-natural properties.
What is a property?
What is a property? There's something something that possesses something. It's possessive.
It's a characteristic or a trait that is possessed by something, right?
Correct.
Okay. And how do you know that objective morals have properties?
because we can discover those metaphysically. They're non-natural properties.
You actually can't discover them metaphysically because they don't exist objectively. So I'm asking you for the evidence that they're objective and that they're not made up by our brains, because the default position is that the morals that we're describing is something that's coming from our brain matter. It's not something that we're discovering that's floating out there in the universe. So I'm just asking for the evidence that they exist in the universe and not just in our brain.
I'm telling you right now, they're not discoverable through the scientific method. They're causally impotent. There you go. I just destroyed your stupid fucking argument. Now
you don't even know what those words mean. So again,
what the fuck you're talking about?
How much have you had to drink tonight? How many shots in are you?
You would love to know, wouldn't you? 0.
I would love to know. I want to know how intoxicated. How much alcohol does somebody have to drink to be this level of belligerent?
This is what you do: gaslight your opponents that are destroying you. Is gaslighting?
Buddy, every word that leaves your mouth makes you look worse and worse and worse. All you're doing is digging your own grave right now. So you haven't actually provided an argument. What you've done is you've repeated words that you've heard that you don't actually understand.
You wouldn't address my slavery argument.
What I'm doing is trying to figure out what is the actual evidence that objective morals exist, because in my framework, we know that morals exist subjectively and we invent them ourselves. We determine what we think is moral and immoral. So if there's something that is in fact objective, you would have to demonstrate that the thing that is in existence would exist without the human mind. And again, I'll say it again, making objective claims is different than saying morals are objective. They're entirely different categories. Objective claims are just something that we say is true, and it's true because it exists in reality. It's observable, it's repeatable, it's provable. That's all that means. So
it's about relativism.
So your moral argument doesn't really work. But so did you have any other arguments for the existence of God?
Yeah. So since there has been objective moral progress, the Christian God
there haven't.
Derogatory. I just
there
demonstrated.
Hasn't. No, you didn't.
I just did.
No, you didn't.
Do you even know what super irrigation is? Go ahead and tell us what super irrigation is.
So
Justin.
again, just repeating big words that you read in a paper somewhere doesn't actually win an argument. So
doesn't do something. Everyone come to Praise I Am, learn something.
Okay. Well, no, we don't do a free clout here. So what we're going to do is the same thing we did last time. You're going to crash out. You spent the last 5 minutes crashing out. Sounds to me like you're at the end of your crash out arc. So what I'm going to say is come back again and have a conversation with me when you're not drunk.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll have a better conversation next time. But thanks for the clips. I appreciate it. I'm 1,000,000% going to post this, and there's going to be 20, maybe 30,000 people that spend an evening laughing at you crashing out, making a complete fool of yourself. And then they're probably going to go on your channel and comment all kinds of crazy stuff on your channel because they watched you crash out over here like drunk uncle at Thanksgiving dinner.
Yeah, so you're a coward.
Did you have any last words?
Yeah, you lost big time, buddy. Come on to Praise Einstein.
Whatever lies you have to tell yourself, big boy. All right, come back when you're ready to have an adult conversation. Imagine doing that, thinking that you're doing the work of Christ. Crazy that these people exist. He's been crying for like 3 years over getting absolutely scorched on the slavery debate by Dr. Josh Bowen. He's never lived it down. And then he came into my chat or my stream 6 months ago now and got cooked. That was a good crash out. If you haven't seen the Praise I Am crash out, go back and definitely grab that. All right, let me grab a couple of super chats. We'll move right on to the next guest. We got we got the live stream jumping now. A lovely Sundar. What? A lovely Sundari. I don't know what that means. My vocabulary is not that good. I appreciate the super chat though. It says, "What's the confusion with Christians in Matthew 5:17? Why do they think that Jesus fulfilling the law then freed the Old Testament law or morality? Freed them." I think what you mean. So the problem is that in the New Testament, in the book of Acts, and in the writings of Paul is clear that Jesus did away with the law. It says in the book of Ephesians that he did away with the law and all of its commandments and regulations and obligations. Ephesians chapter 2, if I remember correctly. Let me grab it for you to make sure that I'm quoting it correctly. Ephesians 2:14 through 15 is the passage. I'll put it on the screen here. Give me just a second. Ephesians 2, go down to 14 and 15, says, "For he is our peace, in his flesh he has made both into one and has broken down the dividing wall, that is the hostility between us, abolishing the law with its commandments, ordinances, that he might create in himself one new humanity." And there's other passages as well. They're on the cheat sheet, actually. So the problem that they have is that, well, Jesus clearly said the opposite of this. So rather than admitting the Bible contradicts itself, they've got to go into the words of Jesus and make it fit what Paul said. They have to change Jesus's words because there's so much of the Pauline doctrine that they can't just throw out the Pauline doctrine because shit, they got to throw out 90% of what Paul wrote, and they're not willing to throw out 90% of the New Testament. It's easier to throw out those couple verses that Jesus spoke. You know what I mean? And Ben, thank you for the $5 super chat. It says, what's crazy about the Jeff Dahmer what's crazy about Jeffrey Dahmer is, hold on. What's crazy about the Jeff Dahmer is saved is the victims he unalived are now burning in hell since they were GAY, and yet Jeff is now with Jeebus. I agree with you, Ben. What you're saying is that what's crazy is that Jeffrey Dahmer, the guy who unalived all these people, and he had like this deathbed prison conversion, is now in heaven, whereas like a lot of the people that he victimized might not be in heaven, even though the Bible says they're going to be judged according to their deeds. Apparently not, as long as you confess with your mouth and believe in your heart that Jesus Christ is Lord, according to Romans 10, 9, and 10. Eric, though, thank you for the super chat, says, just found you. It sounds like you read the Bible too. Sorry, all the best. Well, Eric, I do read the Bible, and that's like, if there's one thing we do on this channel, it's read the Bible. We're going to read this fucking book. Astronova, good to see you, friend. Thank you so much for the super chat. Astronova says, would you please clarify if there is anything in the Old Testament that speaks of spiritual or soul? Was the idea of spirituality a Christian invention? They use it for everything. Ugh. It's a good question, Astronova. There is. So there definitely is this idea of souls. So for example, think of like the Witch of Endor narrative where Saul has the spirit of Samuel, pulled up from the dead, from Sheol, right? And in the book of Isaiah, there's this, and Ezekiel, there's this idea that the spirits of certain departed entities would go down into Sheol. So there's definitely an idea of like having a spirit or a soul, even in the Hebrew Bible. And we do see even like the Spirit of God descending on the judges. If you read the book of Judges, a lot of times when they're doing this miraculous shit, it'll be preceded by the Spirit of the Lord came upon them. Much like in Judges 11, when Jephthah makes the vow to sacrifice his daughter when he goes into war, he did that as the Spirit of God came upon him to give him the utterance of that. It's crazy that the Spirit of God would cause him to do that. Or like King Saul. King Saul, the Spirit of God came on him and he became a prophet. And in the middle of his prophetic fervor, ended up stripping all of his clothes off and making a fool of himself. So there's a lot of that kind of stuff. Dr. Joe, thank you for the $2 over Venmo. Says, I can help with Praise's anger and alcohol issue. My Zelle is open if anyone wants to fund an intervention. Yeah, Dr. Joe is ready and available, guys. That's something. Praise I Am sounded unhinged. I think he needs to see somebody of Dr. Joe's status. Anyways, Amir, thank you for the super chat. Says, did someone say robots? I knew you were an engineer, but not that we share a passion for robotics. Do you work with robotics or is it personal interest? Both. I do automation and controls, and I worked for quite a few years in the robotic industry. I even actually worked for Fanuc Robotics quite some time ago when I was a young engineer. But yeah, I love robotics. I saw my first robot when I was like 6 years old, and I never looked back. I said, that's the coolest shit I'm ever going to see, and it's still the coolest shit I'm ever going to see. Matthew Davis, thank you for the super chat. Says, Doug bless Dex for all the gift subs. Thanks, Dex. Yeah, definitely Doug bless Dexter for supporting and sending out all the subs for people to get a hold of. And Godless Doctor in the house, thank you for the super chat. Says, Christians are historically rivalry, drug kicking, and screaming when it comes to moral progress. So that's 1,000,000%. This idea that like we've made moral progress because of Christianity is the exact opposite of the truth. We've had to drag the believers and the religious among us kicking and screaming to make this moral progress. They've been fighting it every single step of the way, every single step. And Good Ferryman, thank you for the super chat. Spiritual eyes is what my angry parents used to figure out that my package that came in contained a cursed satanic object. Spoiler, it was wet wipes. Holy shit, your parents believed that you were receiving satanic packages because they were using spiritual eyes? I'm not surprised. This is the type of spiritual nonsense that Christians get up to. Space Lord says, often sounds both angry and bored somehow. Praise often sounds both angry and bored. It is weird. I've listened to Praise before on other streams. He's always upset, and he always sounds like something's not quite right. Like words are flowing, but things aren't connecting up top. There's a hamster up there, just like on the wheel, but can't figure out what direction he's going. You know. Everlasting Gobstopper says Christians cussing like sailors is the new speaking in tongues. Yeah, I think you're right, actually. And Johanna, good to see you tonight. Johanna says, what a complete donkey hole. Yeah, I agree, actually. And follow that up with not a very good representative of his religious values. I agree. That's why I was kind of bringing it up, because he was being such a belligerent punk. I was like, I mean, I can't imagine that he thinks this is going to go well for him. You know what I mean? Which is why Wilma Dickliff, of course, says so much for 1 Peter 3:15, huh? Exactly. Yes, so much for 1 Peter 3:15. For people who don't know, this is give an account, a testimony for what you believe. Be ready at all times, right? Let me put it on the screen. It says, in your hearts, sanctify Christ as Lord. Always be ready to make a defense to anyone who demands from you an accounting for the hope that is in you. I don't know if you can make an accounting for the hope that is within you by just like cussing out Christians. And Katie says, so loud and so wrong. Nailed it. Aaron says, did he say properties were casually impotent? I think he meant to say causally. Oh, you did say causally. Yeah, I think he meant to say causally impotent. I don't know if that's what he said. I think what he meant was causally potent. That's probably what I think he said. But listen, this guy reads papers from experts and doesn't understand a word of them, and thinks that throwing around big words wins arguments, and it never does. Helping Mega Deconstruct says, Sunday barbecue, praise Doug and Chair. And yes, it absolutely is a Sunday barbecue. And Paper Bag Man says, here, man, putting up with such an obnoxious POS is quite the achievement. You earned this. Well, thank you, Paper Bag. Yeah, it takes a lot to put up with some of these clowns, but I come to expect it. You know what I mean? And Nick says, roasted pre-sup is my favorite dish. It's not hard to do. They do it to themselves. And I agree with Johanna. It says he was definitely good for a laugh. Praise I Am is always good for a laugh. That's about all he is good for. He's not good for anything beyond that. And Design says, if there was a CYOA Bible, it's troubling to think that making it through with zero curses, grapes, and deaths might make you an atheist. I don't know what CYAO. What's CYAO? I gotta look at this. CYAO is Catholic Youth Association Activities Association. That's what I thought. I was in the CYOA basketball club when I was a kid. That can't be what it means. Yeah, guys, you got to remember, I'm a million years old. I don't know what these abbreviations mean. But Design, thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. And Seven Hill, thank you for the 666. Says, first live I've listened to was yours last night. Second is today. Can't wait to use your cheat sheet to help my friend escape You are the GOAT. Well, thank you so much for supporting and being here for the live stream. I really do appreciate that. And we're going to do everything we can. And Solar says, Praise saw us talking about best Christian crash outs and was like, challenge accepted. I know. He was already probably like my third or my fourth favorite crash out. And now he's solidified in third place, I think. And Hercules says, I've started deconstructing religious AI chatbots because they answer honestly and your points are valid. They gave up their faith in about 5 minutes. Shit. I had this. I had a theist come up and try to AI debate me. And the AI had to give in on my arguments. The AI conceded to me. Marduk, thank you for the $5 super thanks. I appreciate that. And Simply the Best says, spiritual eyes. Through Doug, we gain the power of logical eyes. Praise be unto Douglas. Absolutely. We don't need spiritual eyes. We need facts and logic. And Cahoto with a $5 super chat says, yesterday's stream was a Doug send, over 360 miles covered before I need a break. These 18 wheels are rock hard for Doug. I'm glad to hear it. And if you're rolling across the country in a truck, what better thing to do than sit down and listen to Crispy Christians, you know? And Solar, again, thank you for the super chat. It says, so many religious people make their religion their entire personality, can't decide if their LARP is sad or scary. Well, I'm with you. That seems to be like their whole shtick. That's all they have. But that's what their religion teaches them. Their religion teaches them that you have to deny yourself, give up your entire identity, and be just what this book says you should be. You know what I mean? All right, let me just grab a couple more super chats. I appreciate all the super chats, and then we'll get our next guest in here. Sorry, I don't want to get backed up. I want to make sure everyone gets their super chats read. And Lone Dro says, thanks for what you do, Justin. By the way, today is my birthday, getting too close to comfort to 40 years old. Well, happy birthday, big happy birthday, and thank you for sending support. And also, I'll let you know, I'm on the other side of 40. It's not that bad, really. I think turning 30 wasn't all that great because you left your youth, but there's not that much difference between your 30s and your 40s. I think you're still capable of doing stuff. Your body hasn't broken down yet, so you're going to enjoy your 40s. Don't worry about it. And Epiphano says, how biblical is Milton's Satan in Paradise Lost? I actually haven't read Paradise Lost. So I don't know if I can answer that question, but if I had to guess, I'd say not very much. The Bible doesn't say much about Satan. We have to make things up. Ed Roy says, your patience is immeasurable. Here's money. Well, thank you, Ed Roy. I appreciate that. And I try to be patient. Sometimes I lose it. Zakul says, this dude straight converted me to Judaism. I don't think Praise I Am got the result he was looking for, because Zaku also says, hail Satan. And Solo Vino, good to see you in the house tonight. Thank you so much. Says, Lot with his two daughters was more sober than Praise I Am. I agree. And if you haven't read Lot and his two daughters, make sure you do so. All right, 3 more super chats, friends. Roastman says, rumor has it that SEP is creating a new chapter, justified true belief. I'm totally on board. Listen, I don't even know what SEP is. Is that what's SEP, friends? Shoot, SEP. What is SEP? I don't know any of these abbreviations. I'm not good with abbreviations. I apologize. But listen, we're going to be pushing people to have justifiable beliefs. You know it's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. Thank you for the super chat. And Katie says, good work. Keep the good work from Malaysia. I think you mean keep up, but thank you so much for the super chat from Malaysia. I appreciate that. And Displaced Gamer, again, thank you so much, Displaced. Says, I find the New Covenant prophecy to be the best defeater for Christianity. I see this New Covenant as a reinforcing of the laws, not changing of them. It's making the law permanent on the heart. That's the way exactly how I read it. Is the New Covenant isn't changing the law, it's writing it on your heart, so that now finally you'll actually be able to follow them, because God's upset that you're not able to follow the laws. So this new covenant is what God's going to do to finally fix the problem. You know what I mean? That's the cure that he's come up with. All right, let's grab our next guest in the queue. And it looks like Dominique. How you doing?
Hey, how are you? Can you hear me?
Doing good. Yeah, thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm well, thanks. I just had a quick question. I am deconstructed. I'm one of the members.
Oh shit, W.
Yes. So just quick questions regarding some of the contradictions or stuff in the cheat sheet. Um, so I was curious. There's like some of the ones regarding like getting to know, like God not knowing things. But I had listened to, or my mom listens to, like this podcast. He's, I don't know if you've heard of the Bema podcast.
No, I don't think I have.
Okay, he is attempting to like restore ancient rabbinic discipleship or like elements present in the early church beliefs. So he had like a couple counters to that, and I was curious of your thoughts on it. So what he did was he referenced how Adam knew Eve. So it's not necessarily like God isn't unknowing, so much more like he's trying to, as it's like a way of developing a closer relationship to you.
Sure,
if that makes sense.
But I think that's making a critical error, which is assuming that the idioms from Hebrew carry over into Greek, right? So in the New Testament, when it says that that God knows your heart because he knows all things, I would have no reason to believe that that statement is suggesting that he's just intimate with all things. Like, it makes much more sense to read that as a statement claiming that God legitimately does know all things. Whereas in the Hebrew Bible and in the Hebrew culture itself, like they had a lot of ways of referring to physical intimacy without saying it. That's like they had a lot of ways of referring to genitals without saying it. So when they say that, Adam knew his wife Eve, it's obviously implied through known Hebrew idioms that to know your wife means that you were intimate with your wife. But that idiom doesn't seem to exist in, Koine Greek.
Okay. But, well, I guess some of those verses are in Deuteronomy. So wouldn't that be in Hebrew versus Greek?
Yep. Well, not the one I referred to. The one I referred to is in 1 John.
I think some of the ones you listed in the cheat sheet were Deuteronomy. I think.
On the cheat sheet. 8. Yeah. Well, the ones in Deuteronomy are examples of God not knowing things.
Right. I think that's what I'm trying to reference.
Okay.
Because he's countering the ones in Deuteronomy saying God not knowing, but he was trying to use the same words, I think, where it says Adam knew Eve for those. It was God, not that he didn't like, I guess, know epistemologically, but he was trying to get to know them. He was testing them to get to know them more relationship wise.
Yeah, like in Deuteronomy 13, when it says, the Lord is testing you to know. So, for example, in chapter 8, says, remembering the long way the Lord your God has led you these 40 years in the wilderness in order to humble you, testing you to know what is in your heart. It'd be silly to read that as saying, testing you to be intimate in your heart. It's clearly not testing you for intimacy. It's testing you to find information out. Same way in Genesis 18, when Yahweh says, he has come down to investigate the happenings in Sodom and Gomorrah and to see whether or not the outcry against them is as what it has risen up to him. And if not, then he will know. Right. So he's saying there's a thing he clearly does not know. He doesn't know if the outcry against Sodom is legit. He's got to go check it out.
Okay. I understand the Sodom one. I see how that wouldn't make sense there. But just in regards to like knowing someone's heart, usually metaphorically, when people speak in that way, it's not so much the same, like, you know what I mean?
I can see like why someone would make that connection, but if God is saying, I'm testing you to know what is in your heart, it makes more sense to read that as I want to know what is in your heart. The test becomes useless unless you're trying to gain knowledge. Testing somebody doesn't grow your endearment, right? Like if I had a significant other and they were testing me,
you should tell that to some toxic exes.
Yeah, you're not wrong. If I had a loved one that was testing me, putting me to the test to find out, to try to whatever, to know, but not in the informative sense, that wouldn't grow me closer to them. That would just make me question, why are they, what are they attempting to do here? It's also it's just not a logical reading of the text. Like, nobody uses the words in that way. Like, you have to invent a new way of interpreting the words that don't actually work.
Okay. Well, that's interesting then, because, I don't know if I can find a few quotes exactly from the podcast next time. But it apparently, like the old rabbinic, like Eastern culture, there's a lot that think that way.
Well, but think about Deuteronomy 8, the one we were just talking about, right? In Deuteronomy 8, he doesn't say to know your heart. He says to know what is in your heart. He's acquiring something that he doesn't have. He's acquiring the knowledge of what is in your heart.
Okay, gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. The other one. Mm-hmm. Oh, sorry. No, I got you. I understand. The other one might take a little longer, and I don't know if I want to take up your whole feed, just to get some other callers on. So I sent you an email. I don't know if that went through, but it's regarding the contradiction of the birth between Luke and Matthew for 680 and 4 BCE. I tried using that in a rebuttal to someone else online, and they gave me a pretty decently elaborate response. So I just included that in the email.
The problem with doing the timeline contradictions is that most of them don't work for Christians, because they'll just say, well, they got the history wrong, or the history isn't true, right? So we're calculating part of these dates based on Josephus, and they'll just say, well, Josephus got it wrong.
That was, I guess, summarily what he did, but he provided some details. He I guess I'll read it as a quick quote, and then you can decide whether or not it's something quick to answer here. But quoting him, he wrote, so in Antiquities, he ties the third revolt of Quirinius. Only later in the book does he mention Coponius, but in Jewish Wars, he ties it to Coponius and doesn't mention its connection to the census at all. We know that sometimes Josephus corrected mistakes from Jewish Wars when he wrote Antiquities. This might be one such case. At first, he erroneously tied the revolt to Coponius, but later instead tied it to Quirinius. If that is the case, it indicates that neither the revolt, Quirinius's rule, nor the census took place in 6 AD. This is even after assuming all three revolts were different ones. We can propose that all three accounts are about the same revolt by Judas. This actually introduces no contradiction or problems within Josephus's description of the events themselves, but highlights that he mistakenly thought different sources described different events rather than all describing the same event. This seems to make more sense of the material rather than having three revolts led by Judas from Sepphoris. I'm not sure how he says that name, Sepphoris, being opposed by the same high priest who was disposed twice. We find such duplication elsewhere in Josephus as well, so it's not a stretch to suggest that or reasonable hypothesis to say Josephus was incorrect, either in Jewish Wars trying to revolt to Coponius or in duplication in Antiquities. So why would I trust that Josephus made no mistakes? At the very least, it's reasonable to say he made some mistakes.
Yeah, so you can just say, again, it's going to be summed up as Josephus got something wrong, and that's fine. That's why I don't use this contradiction, because I use the contradictions that can't be refuted, right? Using these timeline contradictions can always be refuted because you can just say, well, the history was wrong. Somebody was calculating the dates wrong, right? So like dating, like history timeline contradictions, to me, can be effective in the right crowd, but I don't think they're effective in most cases because you're relying on something outside of the Bible to provide dating. It's the same reason why so many Christians don't believe in dinosaurs, because you can show them all the evidence, but it doesn't matter. The evidence is based on historical documentation, what we call archaeology, and they would just say, well, the archaeology is wrong.
Gotcha.
You know what I mean?
Okay. Well, okay. I'll put that little disclaimer in my notes. That might be helpful on the cheat sheet, so I know not to bring it up to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's a legitimate contradiction. Like if you read through like commentaries on Luke and Matthew, they'll explain why it's legitimately a contradiction. Like the scholars don't really have too much disagreement on this. It's the lay people that want to disagree with this. But the reality is, like it's not that big of an issue for most Christians, and so like it doesn't come up in conversation a whole lot. It does for me. It doesn't really matter all that much. Like even if let's say for example that this wasn't a contradiction, it doesn't resolve anything. The problem I see with this contradiction is obviously that in one gospel he's born while I can't say the word, Quirinius, that's not right. Anyways, Quirinius, thank you. He's born while Quirinius is alive and is governor and is giving a census. And that was not during the time period of Herod the Great, right? He died in 4 BCE, right? So if Jesus was born prior to the death of Herod, then you've just got a simple timeline error. The census of Quirinius was not happening at the same time that Herod the Great was near death.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's what I tried to use to him, and then that's when he brought up that there were signs of duplication in the antiquities. But if I could just take, or I guess get sources, do you have sources I could use for like reading on commentaries on Luke and Matthew? Like, or
so
where?
I do. I mean, I got a bookshelf full of commentaries. If I would just pick one commentary in general, like a series for the Gospels, I would say go with the Anchor Yale Bible Commentary series. You might also want to look at certain scholars, like James Dunn is a world-renowned scholar on the Gospels. Like anything that James Dunn does is going to be really scholarly. He's still a Christian, obviously. So sometimes he dives a little bit into apologetics, but like he's a phenomenal New Testament scholar. I believe James Dunn might have done one of the commentaries. You might also want to look at the New American Commentary series. They've got some good New Testament commentaries. I love the World Biblical Commentary series, but I think their Old Testament stuff is better than their New Testament stuff. But that'd be a good place to start. Most of these issues between Matthew and Luke in chapter 2, almost every commentary I've ever read does deal with this. Like they're not trying to pretend that it doesn't exist. They know that this is a problem, but most of the commentaries I've read aren't really bending over into pretzels trying to justify it. A lot of them are just admitting that there is a timeline error.
Gotcha. Okay. What was the first Bible series you said? I didn't catch how to spell it.
I would go with the Anchor Yale Bible Commentary series.
Anchor Yale. Okay. Gotcha. Sorry, I'm just really meticulous. I like being able to counter everybody from every angle. So
sure, yeah, I understand.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks, Justin. I was on the stream yesterday. My last name is pronounced Yuri, just in case you see my name again. So.
Oh, Yuri. Okay, I appreciate that. I'll try to pronounce it correctly.
No problem. Thanks for all you do. I appreciate all your work, and praise Doug.
Absolutely, praise Doug. Cheers, friend. Thanks for coming up.
Thanks. Have a good one.
All right, we've got a couple people waiting in the queue, so we're gonna grab them here in just a second. Let me grab a couple of our super chats. Tyrone Biggs, thank you for the $5 super thanks, and Meg, good to see you, Meg. Meg says, "I smell barbecue. Smells like victory." Yeah, we had one barbecue already. We're going to get another barbecue going here. Johanna says, where would I find Menard videos? I saw one, but I would love to see more. Menard has his own channel called Menard Reports, MANR Reports. If you go to the Menard video on my channels, I put his handle in the title of the video. Just click on his handle. It'll take you to his channel. You can watch him crash out on his own channel. Pat says, I use geological eyes and I see Doug everywhere. Amen. Hey, Doug. Yeah, the geological eyes is what you need. Forget those spiritual eyes. And Design says CYOA means Choose Your Own Adventure Bible. Oh, I would never have guessed that. Thank you for the clarification, though, but that is not something I would have guessed. But that is a great abbreviation, nonetheless. And T-Maz says, what's the biblical definition of faith? Blind belief or putting your trust in something. Also, which has worse stuff morally, Bible or Quran? Thanks. I think the Bible is actually a little bit worse than the Quran in terms of like the shit that the God gets up to. That being said, my personal idea is that the idea in the Bible of what is faith is this idea of trust, not this idea of just believing in something. Obviously, it starts with a belief, but it's also about trust, which is why the patriarchs believed, but just believing wasn't enough. In fact, James says even the demons believe, right? It's the faith, the trust that makes it exceptional. And Mr. Peabody says, no theist expects the Justin Inquisition. They don't. They never see it coming, which is, it's weird to me. It's like, why would you get into a conversation with someone you've never watched, you know? Astronova, thank you again for the super chat. Says, Paul says there's a new covenant. Jeremiah 33:19-21 says that the only way to break God's covenant, Old Testament, is to break the covenant of the day and night. How do Christians get around this? Thanks. So they just don't read it. That's how they get around it. But the way I interpret these passages is not that God is giving them a new and a different covenant, is that he is renewing the old covenant. The same Hebrew word or root there, Kodesh, is used for renewing, right? This word gets used to refer to renewal and also new. It could be used the same way depending on the conjugation. So it's entirely plausible that the original text of Jeremiah was talking about a renewed covenant, but there is one part where it says it will not be like the old, which makes it a little bit different. It makes it a little bit difficult to interpret, but it's clear that the part that's not like the old is that it's the laws. The laws are now in your heart. They're not written on stone. And Johanna, thank you again for the super chat, says, to me, God sounds very emotional and mentally unstable. He's also very needy. He really is. Supposedly creating humans for the sole purpose of worshiping him. What a crybaby. You're right. What a crazy narcissistic God that would just literally create human beings to worship him. What kind of a weirdo wants that? That sounds horrific. That is not what I would create life forms for. That sounds terrible. And also Royce says, hi bro, stop doxing yourself. People are crazy. Sorry. Yeah. They are crazy though. And you're 100% right. That's why people send me death threats. And Ginger says, first time chatting, catching alive. Love your work. Keep it up. Well, thank you so much, Ginger. I really appreciate that. And dope name. Ginger Thunder is a great name. Thank you for supporting and thank you for swinging by. Let's get our next guest in here. It looks like we've got, is it Taya? 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 Hello? Taya? Bueller? Anything? No? Okay. All right. Well, unfortunately, it sounds like your equipment is not up to snuff. We'll move on to the next guest. Come back, Taya, if you can get your equipment working, and we'll try to work you into the conversation. And our next guest, that JPW I read?
Yeah.
Yeah, how you doing, JP?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. It's a little quiet, but I can hear you.
Yes.
JP, are you at least 18 and are you a believer?
Yes.
Awesome. And which God do you believe in?
I believe in the Christian God.
Sure. And what would be the most compelling evidence or argument for the Christian God being real?
I would say that the most compelling evidence would be my personal experience.
Oh boy.
I came from
Can
from the slums.
can you go back inside? All I can hear is wind going through your microphone now. Holy shit.
Yes, I am going in my car. Is this better?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I came through a difficult time. Uh, my friends invited me to church. I go to church. I feel something I never felt uh, in a long time,
So
and that was the
vibes.
Holy Spirit. No, not vibes.
Sounds like
It
vibes to
was
me.
it was not vibes, uh, but also prophecy.
All right, what prophecy? Because your vibes aren't a compelling argument.
Uh, I like Isaiah, the virgin birth.
Isaiah 7.
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah, you want to
What
talk?
what is your name,
Sure. I'm Justin.
Justin?
Yeah, I think the prophecies are an interesting topic. Want to read Isaiah 7 with me?
Yes.
Cool. All right, 1 second. Hold on. I gotta move something real quick. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can all hear you. Okay, so Isaiah 7 says at the beginning that there's something happening. Do you know what's happening in the beginning of chapter 7?
I believe there is a war,
You got it.
and there is something happening to where two kingdoms. I forget which name specifically, but they are attacking one nation. Correct?
Yeah, it's the Northern Israelites and the Arameans. They've made an
Right.
alliance and they're
Yes,
going
yes,
to war against Judea, right? And the king of
yes,
Judea, Ahaz, is afraid that his kingdom is going to fall. So the God
yes, sir.
sends the prophet Isaiah to go shore up his faith. The end of the first prophecy in chapter 7, verse 9 says, "If you do not stand firm in faith, you shall not stand at all." Now, the second prophecy comes to King Ahaz starting in verse 10. It says, "Again the Lord spoke to Ahaz, saying, Ask a sign of the Lord your God, let it be as deep as Sheol or as high as heaven. But Ahaz said, I will not ask, and I will not put the Lord to the test. Then Isaiah said, Hear then, O house of David, is it too little for you to weary mortals, that you weary my God also? Therefore the Lord himself will give you a sign. Look, the young woman is with child, and shall bear a son, and shall name him Emmanuel. He shall eat curds and honey by the time he knows how to refuse evil and choose the good. For before the child knows how to refuse the evil and choose the good, the land before whose two kings you are in dread will be deserted." So I don't see anything in this about a virgin birth to a Messiah. I see a story about a child who's already been conceived during the reign of King Ahaz. And before that child is old enough to know right from wrong, the two kings that are threatening Ahaz are going to be wiped out. What'd I miss?
Yes, it is a double fulfillment.
Why? Why would I believe that?
Because Jesus came from the Virgin Mary,
Well, I don't believe
and
that.
it is historically true.
No, it's not. It's historically not
Yes, it
true.
is. How do you know this?
Have you ever witnessed a virgin
Where, where,
birth?
where, where do you get your information from?
So I get my information from actual science, and what we've never witnessed is another human being giving birth to another human being without some sort of fertilization happening, right? So statistically speaking, it would be impossible for virgin birth. Now, if you want to say that
But
it's historically true, I would need some sort of evidence, because Isaiah 7 is not evidence. The context of Isaiah 7 is that there's a child born during the reign of King Ahaz. I have no reason to believe that any of these
yes,
prophecies have a second meaning. Why would I accept that any prophecy
not
has two
it,
meanings?
not only a second meaning. The prophecy in original context also came true.
I agree. The prophecy in the original context was written after the events. It's written in a form of Hebrew that didn't even exist until after the events transpired. The events that transpired was the king of Assyria coming down and wiping out the northern tribes and also wiping out the Arameans, which appears to be happening in chapter 8.
Yes, this is double fulfillment.
It's not double
Here is why.
fulfillment.
How do you not get this?
Because if it was a double fulfillment, then the double fulfillment would be of the same thing. It would be of a king who is under attack by two different kingdoms. And before those two kingdoms, or before a child is old enough to know right from wrong, the two kingdoms are going to be wiped out. That would be a double fulfillment. What you're suggesting is that the prophecy no longer has any meaning. It just means whatever you want it to mean.
What? Hey, are you claiming that the prophecy was written after the event had happened?
Yeah.
Where do you get your information from?
What language is the prophecy written in?
It would be Hebrew.
Right. In what form of Hebrew?
I do not know.
I know you don't know. It's written in traditional biblical Hebrew, which is basically exilic Hebrew, which didn't exist until the Israelites went into exile, which started in 605 BCE. The war that he's talking about is in the middle of the 730s BCE, which means if this was actually written before the events, we would need these texts to show up in Paleo Hebrew, not in Aramaic Hebrew.
One thing you are not considering is, well, first, chalalelo, chalala, but one thing that you are not considering
Did you just
is
say
that
Shalalalala? I love that song. I watched Little Mermaid too.
I know this song. But no,
Shalalalala, don't be
chalala.
shy. You have to kiss the girl. You know the song.
This is wrong, but Justin, one thing you are considering is
Facts.
you are not considering. No, Justin, one thing that you are not considering is that you need to have the Holy Spirit to understand.
No, that's
what.
bullshit.
No, it is not.
Oh,
you
it
need
absolutely is
to
bullshit.
have let me speak. You need to.
I'm not going to let you get up here and speak on my live and tell me what I need. I know what words mean. I don't need some spirit to know that your book is full of lies.
Oh,
that's ridiculous.
Okay. Fair enough. But what you are not considering is the fact that you do not have the Holy Spirit.
Neither do you.
Yes, I do. I told you in the beginning of the conversation.
Prove it. You do.
I had told you.
Prove it.
Justin.
What can the Holy Spirit empower you to do?
I will make a prophecy.
What can the Holy Spirit empower you to do?
It allows me to understand things clearly in both contexts in which it is written.
That's just your imagination. You only think that you can understand things with the Holy Spirit. You actually don't understand things. You're just learning like the lies that somebody told you. I'm asking you what real thing, what tangible thing can the Holy Spirit allow you to do?
Give me something right now.
I'm holding a glass of Kraken right now. Can your God empty this glass of Kraken? Also, big thank you to Adele and Josh, you might know as Rock Hard for Doug. Thank you so much for gifting me the Kraken mug, and they even brought me some Kraken to enjoy during the live stream. So big thanks to that duo. All right, so can your God make this Kraken disappear? Because I can guarantee my God can make it disappear.
Justin, you are atheist.
I'm asking you a yes or no question. Can your God make this Kraken disappear?
Justin, what is Kraken?
It's a yes or no. Can your God cause this Kraken
but what is Kraken?
Be removed from the cup? It doesn't matter what it is. Just answer the question. Can your God remove it? You said yes, so go ahead and make him do it.
You are asking me things that the Holy Spirit I am not. Who am I to testify the Holy Spirit? Who am I to test the Holy Spirit?
Now I'm hearing excuses. You're starting to sound like King Ahaz, and he wasn't a good guy. That's how King Ahaz ended up getting his ass kicked. He said, I'm not going to put the Lord to the test. Now you're setting yourself up now because you don't trust God.
Justin, can you give me one moment?
The Lord is not sending his best warriors tonight. Also, guys, thanks for being here. The guest box is starting to slim down a little bit. If you want to be a guest in the show, the link is in the description or it's up top. You can go to tinyurl.com/guestdz. Would love to hear from you. I appreciate that. Also, listen, dude, you got it. You can't be doing this outside. I don't know what's going on in your life that you have to be like walking around outside in the wind with your phone on a live stream, but you're destroying my eardrums right now.
Justin, what was the question that you had asked me? And
Can
Justin,
God make this Kraken disappear?
And Justin, I apologize for the wind. I am going outside once more so you can mute me and I will answer.
Holy Spirit, weak AF tonight. Absolutely weak. Completely just impotent. A waste.
Okay, Justin, can you hear me?
Unfortunately, yes.
Okay. Just me.
All right, so can your God fix this for me? Can he make it disappear?
I shall not test the God.
Okay, so he can't.
Why should
you told me that he could. Now you're telling me that he can't do it.
Why should I test the God?
Okay,
wait, Justin.
Okay, King Ahaz.
Justin.
Thanks for telling us that you don't have any faith. You sound exactly like King Ahaz said.
Justin.
King Ahaz says. King Ahaz said, "I will not ask and I will not put the Lord to the test." You're
wicked.
Not understanding. You're just as wicked as King Ahaz was.
Justin. I shall not test God. Who am I? Who am I? A human being to test
apparently somebody
the Lord
with no
Almighty.
Faith.
Justin.
What did Jesus do?
In the Bible.
Didn't Jesus say that anything you ask in my name, I will do it for you?
Justin.
It's crazy that you don't actually hear the words that are coming out of my mouth. Did Jesus say anything you ask in my name, I will do it for you?
Justin, yes, but
okay, do you believe those words?
It is not specifically talking about.
Do you believe those
your
words?
Direct answer.
Do you believe those words?
I believe the words in the context of the Holy Spirit.
Okay, so then in John 14, when it says you can ask for anything, I want you to ask for the thing that I asked you to. You would convert. Shit, we've got 1,100, 1,200, 1,300 people watching here on YouTube right now. I don't know how many people are watching on TikTok. Let me see how many people are on TikTok right now. Wait, shit, I don't know. TikTok doesn't tell me how many people are online right now. But listen, you got a lot of people online right now watching. You could make a lot of people convert to Christianity right now. And all you have to do is pray to your God to make
you shall fear my God.
To make this crack. I can't fear your God because your God is a weak bitch-ass punk.
Hey, do not blaspheme the God.
I just did, and he's powerless to stop it.
Justin, you need to understand. You do not have the Holy Spirit in you to understand
no such
what
thing
the
as
Bible
a Holy
says.
Spirit.
Justin,
don't you understand how incredibly? Don't you understand how incredibly stupid and self-defeating it is to have a book that is full of truth that's going to lead you to God, but you can't actually know any of it unless you already believe in that God? It's the most circular, self-defeating idea in the world.
Justin, God has a plan for all of us.
He certainly does not.
No, Justin, but
he doesn't exist.
No, Justin.
But he doesn't exist.
No, Justin. But only will he decide which people will believe in him, because the people who are willing to accept him are the ones who will believe in him. Yes.
So your religion is so toxic that you have to believe that I'm just unwilling to come to grips with reality.
Justin,
And this is why we do these live streams, is because
why,
in order for your religion to make
Justin,
sense, you have to believe, you're required to believe that I'm a bad person. That's what you have to do to rationalize your faith. I don't have to do that. In order for my worldview to work, I don't have to believe that you're a bad person. In fact, you sound like a decent person so far. I think you're just deeply confused and don't know how to have a conversation. That being said, your religion is incredibly toxic because now your entire position, your whole argument up to this point rests on you proving that I'm a bad person. So go ahead and prove that I'm a bad person, unwilling to accept the facts of reality.
Justin, nobody is saying that you are a bad person. I do not believe you are a bad person. I do not believe.
God won't reveal himself to me because I'm not willing to accept him.
And do you think that means you are bad?
And that would be a bad thing to do. Like if you're not open and willing to accept facts and information, that is a bad thing. That's not a good thing. So what you're suggesting is that I'm not a good person. I'm not willing to accept facts and information because in order for your religious viewpoint to work, you have to believe that. You can't believe that I'm a rational person who just came to a different conclusion than you because I actually read the book. I read the parts where God said you can own slaves. I read the parts where God says women are property. I read the parts where God says kill man, women, children, and even suckling babies. These are parts of the cult that make it less likely every time I turn a page. Let me ask you a question. Did you think that slavery was good when God said you can own slaves?
First of all, Justin, I would like to say you are not a bad person. I do not believe you are a bad person. I believe every person who is good is a good person. But Justin,
not me though.
Justin, I did not say this. Justin, you need to understand that
PJ,
you need to have the.
PJ, answer the question.
Justin,
was it a good thing when God said that you can own slaves?
Justin, he did not say this.
You want me to show you where he says it?
Justin, I have read Leviticus. I know what you are referring to. I do not believe that is what he said.
You clearly haven't read it. I'll read it for you. Don't worry. This problem happens a lot. So it says in verse 44, as for the male and female slaves you may have, it is from the nations around you that you may acquire male and female slaves. You may also acquire them from among the aliens residing with you and from their families who are with you, who have been born in your land. They may be your property. You may keep them as a possession for your children after you, for them to inherit as property. So it sounds to me like he's saying you can own slaves.
Yes. Do you have the Holy Spirit?
What do you call somebody who is owned as property?
Oh, no. Justin, the thing that you are calling them is a slave. Is a slave.
What do you call somebody? What do you call somebody? You didn't. What do you call somebody that is owned as property? What's the word for that?
Justin, I have said this.
PJ, JP, whatever your name is, I need you to answer my question. What do you describe somebody as when they are owned as personal property? What's the word for that?
Justin,
what's the word for it? Oh, okay. And does Leviticus say that you can own people as property?
This was not a God's command.
Yes or no? Did Leviticus say that you can own people as property?
I already heard. Yes. Okay.
Valerie, thank you so much for the $5 over Venmo while we're waiting for this chump to answer my question. Valerie says there's an account copying you on YouTube, goes by the name Deconstruction Dash Zone, and tries to hit on me. I've reported it, but YouTube doesn't care. Did you know this? And do you have any leverage as the OG account? Yes, please send me an email with the link to the account. I will report it and have it removed as a fraudulent account. This has happened on many occasions.
Yes.
This is not the first time it's happened. I've had multiple accounts pretending to be me and causing chaos in the community. Send me a link to their account, please, and thank you. And I will make sure that it gets dealt with. Thank you, Valerie, for letting me know. And I'm sorry that assholes are using my online alias to do this type of assholery. Okay, so my question was, did Leviticus state that you can own people as property?
Justin, he had said this.
It's a yes or no. Does Leviticus state
I said it. I said this.
Okay, now, in Leviticus 25, who's giving the laws?
Moses is giving the law.
And where did Moses get the law from?
Moses got the law from him.
From God?
No.
You'd be wrong. Leviticus 25:1 says, "The Lord spoke to Moses on Mount Sinai, saying, 'Speak to the Israelites and say to them.'" And then everything in chapter 25 was spoken directly from God's mouth to Moses. The text clearly identifies the law coming from Yahweh. Why do you lie on your God? Why do you hate your God so much that you have to lie on him?
Justin, I do not lie, and I do not hate my God.
You're lying right now.
I have lied before.
You literally
I
said
have lied before.
that,
I am not
that
lying.
God. You said that God didn't utter this command, and in Leviticus 25 verse 1, it literally says that God did.
Justin, this
sounds
was
to
for
me.
people at
Sounds
the
to me
time.
like. Sounds to me like your Holy Spirit isn't actually enabling you to read the text. Maybe the Holy Spirit is useless because it's fictitious, and what you actually need to do is stop relying on fictitious spirits and just read the actual book.
Justin, I do not lie.
You just did. I watched you do it.
Justin, there is one thing you need to understand. That is, you
Also, sorry if the moderators in my YouTube stream. There's a guy named Mando that is commenting 8647. Please delete the comment and ban Mando forever.
No.
Mando
I do not agree with.
What?
Oh,
Hold on,
boy.
I'm not talking to you, JP.
Oh boy.
Mando in the YouTube chat needs to be banned and restricted from the live stream. For those who don't know what that term means, it's not good. It'll get my live taken down. Clearly, it's an asshole. Just get him out of here. JP, so my question is, we'll get back at the point. In Leviticus 25, it clearly states that God gave that command to Moses. Did it not say that?
Justin, he has said this, but this was not for the same verse.
Okay, so in Leviticus 25, God commands to Moses, doesn't he?
He does, but the thing after that, that is where God stops with his command.
Not even close.
Yes.
You want me to prove?
Justin.
Listen, JP, you should know by now that you haven't read the book and I have. So let me read you to the point to demonstrate to you that it's still God talking.
Okay.
It says in 39, if any who are dependent on you become so impoverished that they sell themselves to you, you shall not make them serve as slaves. They shall remain with you as hired or bound laborers. They shall serve you until the year of Jubilee. Then they and their children with them shall go out from your authority. They shall go back to their own family and return to their ancestral property, for they are my servants who I brought out of the land of Egypt, and they shall not be sold as slaves are sold. So these are people that belong to Yahweh. Yahweh is speaking this law to Moses. The Israelites are Yahweh's servant, which is why he doesn't want the Israelites to make slaves of each other unless you're a woman, but he says you can make slaves of the foreigners.
Justin?
I'm waiting for you. I'm waiting for you to admit that this law came from God.
Justin, I am not going to admit this because I am not going to admit something.
Now that we actually read the passage, now that we read the passage, I know you read it for the first time just now. Who gave the law? Can you answer the question?
Justin, may you repeat the verse that you had just told
It's
me?
Leviticus 25, verse 39 to 43.
Leviticus 25, verse 49, 39
I know, reading's hard.
to 43. No, reading is not hard.
It must be because you haven't read it, even with all those spiritual eyes. It's funny how spiritual eyes can't actually prepare you to read the text.
Justin, why are you so quick? Okay,
Why
so
are you
Justin,
so slow?
Justin, I knew this was coming. Justin, listen
I
to
don't
me.
think you did know it was coming, or
You,
else you wouldn't be getting cooked right
Justin,
now. It sounds to me like you're like just walking like a deer into the headlights right now.
Justin. So,
Like you're that deer that got hit by the car and like your neck is just dangling and like there's another car already coming and you still haven't learned your lesson. You're still just standing in the road waiting for the second car to come and take you out and finish you.
Justin, what are you even on about?
Listen, in Leviticus 25, is God the one giving the command, yes or no?
God is giving the command only for the first passage.
Okay, so no, you're wrong because he calls them his servants who I
Oh,
brought.
Justin.
He says, they are my servants who
Oh,
I brought out of the land of Egypt. That is God doing. God was the one that brought them out of the land of Egypt. They are not Moses's servants. They are God's servants. Why in the hell would I switch from God giving all of these commands to Moses giving the command?
you should not.
You're right. I should not. And I don't because that would be incongruent with the reading of the text. So if I'm reading the text honestly, which you seem
Yes.
to not be doing, is that clearly God is giving them
Oh,
all the
Justin.
commandments of Leviticus, and God says that you can own the slaves.
Okay, Justin, even if he had said this, this
He
was for
did
our people at the time.
literally goalpost on wheels at this point. We went from the Bible doesn't condone slavery to Moses condones it, but God didn't.
Justin.
Now we got to the point where God condones
Justin.
it, but now you're saying, well, he did
Oh,
condone it,
no.
but he didn't condone it forever. You see how you have to constantly shift the goalposts because it's clear you haven't actually read the book. And every time I read the book to you, now you have to actually change your position on what the book actually says because you yourself haven't actually read the book.
Justin, uh, do you have children?
That's a personal question, but the answer is yeah.
Yeah, I do not mean to be personal. Justin, what would happen if you are wrong?
Wrong about what?
Eh, eh, Justin, what would happen if you are wrong about the Christianity?
What would happen if you're wrong about Islam?
Then I will go to the Islam here.
That's right. You nailed it right. So you could be wrong about Islam. I could be wrong about Islam and Christianity. We could all be wrong about Buddhism, and you could be wrong about all kinds of shit. So this is a useless idea. Pascal's wager is not the good way to end this discussion.
Who is a Pascal?
Blaise Pascal was the one that invented this argument. This argument is you should choose to believe in Christianity because it's a risk versus reward bet. It's a wager.
Oh,
It's a dumb
yes,
one.
never mind. I do not agree with this.
Yeah.
Okay, just so you are telling me through the Leviticus, yes, that God had given all of these verses to Moses, to the Israelites. Yes,
I'm not telling you. The book told you.
yes.
Yeah.
But what, if what you are saying is true,
It is true.
then why are there so many? No, Justin, the interpretation.
Because nobody reads it, just like you. We've got a bunch of Christians in the church
Why are there so many interpretations?
that don't actually read the book. And because they don't actually read the book, they don't even know what's in it. And it's also true that the book literally contradicts itself, right? So the idea that the law is forever versus the idea that the law is temporary is literally a clear contradiction in the text, because in Deuteronomy, are you okay? Are you having a heart attack? Do we need to call EMS?
This is not your Justin. The law is
Deuteronomy
temporary.
12:1. These are the statutes and ordinances that you must diligently observe in the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, have given you to occupy all the days that you live on the earth. Deuteronomy 12:28. Be careful to obey all of these words that I am commanding you, so that it may go well with you and with your children after you forever, because you will be doing what is good and right in the sight of the Lord your God. The Bible, in the Hebrew scriptures, never once says that the law is temporary. It explicitly states that the law is forever. See, this is the problem. Like, you came up here claiming to have spiritual eyes, and the reality of the matter is that not only do you not have spiritual eyes, it's clear you've never even read the book. You have no idea what is in this book. That's the difference between you and me. It's not that you have spiritual eyes and I don't. It's that I've read the book and you haven't. So what you need to do is quit pretending like you have divine revelation and just read the fucking book.
Justin.
Read the book from cover to cover, and then come back to me and talk about your spiritual eyes.
Justin,
listen,
first of all,
JP, I think the chat's getting tired of the conversation, because you haven't really brought anything to the table,
Justin.
And you're literally blowing everybody's ears out.
Justin.
I think everyone's a little bit tired of you blowing our ears out because you're shouting into your phone.
Justin.
Okay. Well, listen, JP, I appreciate you coming up and chat with me. I'm going to move on to someone who's not shouting my name repeatedly into my eardrums and destroying what's left of my 40-year-old eardrums. But thanks for coming up and chatting with me. I got to preserve these suckers. I don't get eardrums for the rest of my life. My dad eventually had hearing problems. I'll probably have them eventually. I'm not going to get to that point any sooner by letting you yell at me. Adam Brown, thank you for the 499 super chat. Good to see you tonight. It says, been busy with life stuff. I get it. Trust me, I get it. Miss attending the cookout in person. Cook one extra crispy for your boy, and praise Doug. Thank you so much, Adam. And we are cooking. The grill is preheated. We are cooking. That's what's happening. And Johanna says, in my 61 years, I've met people worthy of respect, but none of worship. I'm with you. I don't think it makes sense to worship anything, even if there was a supposed creator. That's nonsense. And Noah's Lions 8 dead babies on the ark. Good to see you tonight, my Mennonite friend. Says, a man goes to see his doc, and the doc tells him, you need to stop. You need to stop master you-know-whating. Why? The man asks, because I'm trying to examine you. I fucking love nurses, man. That's an amazing joke. I appreciate that. I need that after listening to that last caller. And Joanna, thank you so much. Says, please, not another personal experience. I know. I wasn't about to do that again to you guys. I'm not going to force another personal experience on you. We got to do better than that kind of garbage. Personal experience is meaningless here, people. Hard work. Thank you for the super chat. It says, here's $4.99 to never sing The Little Mermaid again. LOL. Much love. Listen, guys, if there's anything I know about the gifts that I've been given by the world that we live in, singing is not among them. I apologize now. If I ever sing a tune, it won't be good. It'll hurt your eardrums. And I'm going to apologize in advance. It's not pretty, but it is what it is. We had to make sure we were all on the same page. Tralalelo, tralala is a meme. This guy is a troll. Yeah. I didn't know that. I did not know that. Now I know that. Now I have to look that up tonight. I appreciate the warning, though. Thank you for that. And Neck2 says, I can make that booze disappear for you, Justin. I know. Listen, I'm already about a third of the way through it. Yahweh hasn't made any of it disappear yet. So right now, in the battle of who can make this cup disappear, I'm winning. I'm winning that fight. And Johanna says, God has a plan for all of us, but his plan for this caller is a quick entry into the insane asylum. Yeah, I think you nailed it, actually. Albino Huggy Serenity Serpent. That's a hell of a name. I appreciate a good name. And thank you for the $6.99 Canadian super chat, money that actually has value in this world. It says, Justin, follow Justin. Take a shot for that one. Listen, if we would have took a shot every time he said my name, we'd be all in the hospital right now. That guy was crazy. Johanna, thank you so much for the super chat. It says, why do religious people never question where God came from? How long has he been around, and what was he up to until 6,000 years ago? You're right, Johanna. They don't question that. They're primed to not question. Like, that's the goal. The goal is to not question. And Chris, thank you for the $10 super chat. It says, what's up, Justin? Keep doing the goods work. I'm doing everything I can. I'm here. And we're cooking as much as humanly possible. That's what we're trying to do. And Kern says he needs spiritual eyes. Boy, he was something, wasn't he? And Ashera's oldest daughter, hell of a name. Thank you for the super chat. Says, host, what's your name again? I almost forgot. I don't know. Does anyone know my name after that chat? I don't know. Chris Elion says, Justin translates into Jesus. That may not be entirely accurate, but Big W. And Royce says, oops, sorry, I got that one. Ginger got that one. Josh says, this guess is crazy. Crack in the trees. Yes, that guess was out of his ever-loving mind. Thank you for the super chat. And Josh Barba says, guess could use some cracking. I agree. He needed to calm the F down. It might get him to stop yelling or might make him yell more. I actually don't know what the result would be, but shit, get him to do some cracking. Let him calm down. Oops, sorry, I got 2 super chats up. Penelope, thank you for the super chat. Penelope says, Justin, you're the goat. Hugs and hail dog. But thank you so much. I don't know if I am the goat, but with your guys' backing and support, we're gonna keep climbing. We're gonna get this train rolling, right? Maximilian, good to see you tonight, friend. Thank you so much for the $20 super chat. It says, and there he is again, our rock of salvation, father of the only true son, Doug the Rock, the everlasting gobstopper. Sorry, Godstopper. I love that. The Godstopper. Amazing. May the spirit of the Kraken fill your heart and soul and provide everlasting. Did I miss part? Is it part of this super chat not coming through? Let's see. So an everlasting patience. We got one word cut off for some reason. Thank you so much, Maximilian. I do need a little bit of patience. I don't know if the Kraken's going to help or hurt, but we're going to keep drinking to find out. You know what I mean? And Hermit says, do not test the Lord your God, but ask for anything. Isn't it crazy that we have these clear contradictions? Like, we can't put the Lord to the test. Also, ask for anything and God will give it to you. But it's not a contradiction. How you doing, Ben? Ben? Ben, did you fall asleep, my friend? Are you an air traffic controller? What's happening? Oh, man. Well, you know, it wouldn't be a live stream on TikTok if I didn't get my live restricted. Your live contains themes that some may find uncomfortable and has been restricted. Reason, regulated goods content. Your live is not eligible for recommendation and restricted in search results because your live does not comply with the For You feed eligibility standards under our community guidelines. Reason, discussing drugs or other regulated substances. You now can no longer talk about Kraken or accuse somebody of not being sober. Also, now that I've got the TikTok stream window open, Bertram, thank you so much for all the gifts. And Londro, thank you so much for the gifts. Big W, guys. I appreciate the support over on TikTok. And Slussy as well, and the Unashamed Apostate. Big W, I appreciate the support. And the TikTok crew made this channel what it is. You guys remember, I really started my streaming on TikTok, and then I moved over to YouTube because I was like, well, shit, TikTok's going to get crushed. They're going to get banned. Right. And I found on both platforms all kinds of support. So thank you so much for supporting the work. So we got with us, looks like Philip. Is that correct?
Yes, that's me.
Yeah, welcome in, Philip. Are you at least 18, and are you a believer in some kind of a God, Philip?
Yes, I'm at least 18, and I could say, yeah, that I'm a believer in some kind of God.
Okay. Can you do us a favor and maybe define what kind of a God you believe in?
Yeah, I could say that basically my notion of a God is the universe experiencing itself.
Oh boy. So like a collective consciousness?
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah. What would
Reductively
be a
speaking,
compelling reason to believe that the universe itself is a conscious entity?
So the way I believe about the existence of God is the idea that essentially if you go to the smallest block of reality, you got
What is a block
basically,
of reality?
well, in order to construct the physical reality we currently have, we have things like atoms, molecules, subatomic particles, and if you go down to the lowest level possible, then
Gotcha.
you get to
So just like the lowest
you
form
get
of materialism?
beyond materialism, actually. Yeah.
Well, I personally don't believe that there anything that is beyond materialism. Like I don't think that transcendental categories actually exist. Now, I've asked a lot of
Okay.
people to convince me that like transcendental
hmm
categories could exist, and I have yet to see
hmm
it actually happen.
So then, how do you qualify information or concepts when it comes to your relationship to matter?
Well, information is just something we conceive of in our brain. Like we look at something and then we describe it. And that description of the thing is what we call information.
I understand, but the idea of the information, rather than the how the storage of the information is made, how do you conceive that?
The idea doesn't exist other than in our brains. Like we invented ideas. Without brains, they wouldn't exist.
So, do you mean that reality is only experienced through the brain, or do you mean that the concepts that we think of only exist in our brains per se?
Yeah. What I'm saying is concepts are derived from the brain. That's where they form.
Okay, so let's say we talk about the idea of a point. I'm just gonna have to change my headphones because they're turning off. Give me a
Mm-hmm.
second.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, can you hear me still?
Yeah.
I can't hear you. Give me a second.
Mm-hmm.
Um, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yeah.
I can't hear you. Okay, just give me a second. Sorry for that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, I'm back. I'm not sure how long it's gonna last. If it doesn't last longer, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah. Sure. It's fine.
You still there?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Why
Can you hear me?
can I not hear you?
Maybe refresh the browser.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I don't think you can hear me.
Okay, I can't hear you. I'm gonna put the phone on, so I'm gonna
Mm-hmm.
have your. Oh, okay. Um, give me a second. It's just that my headphones are on the phone
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Maybe just turn your headphones off altogether.
Okay, try again. Sorry
Yeah,
about that.
we'll see what happens.
No, still not. Um, give me a second. It's just that my headphones are. I'm really sorry for that, Justin.
It's all right. Turn your headphones off altogether.
Yeah. Okay, try again. That's what I'm trying.
We'll see what happens.
No, still not.
And now you got a bunch of echo.
Um,
Are you on a computer right now?
give me a second. It's just that my headphones are. I'm really sorry for that, Justin.
It's all right. Turn your headphones off altogether.
Yeah. Okay, try again. That's what I'm trying. Two more options. Oh, okay, that's why.
And now you got a bunch of echo.
Okay, try again. Say something.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. Sorry about that, man. Like, honestly. Cool.
No, we'll get it sorted.
All right. So yeah, where were we?
I think you were trying to claim that transcendental categories exist.
Yeah, essentially. Well, I'm not sure what your definition of transcendental categories is per se, but I think from what I understand, it's anything that is not made out of pure matter, correct?
I think that's close. I think it depends on your definition of matter. So there are things that people would say aren't matter, like, I don't know, quantum fields. So matter is not the greatest word. I would say stuff.
Okay,
but
stuff.
Also, like, it sounds to me like you've got like a speaker that's sending out the audio from this. Can you turn those speakers down because it's backfeeding into your microphone?
Try again.
Yeah, see if this is any better.
Yeah. Okay.
So, like, to me, I like the term stuff because it just means like anything that seems to exist. That being said, like, if there is something that exists transcendentally, I've never seen evidence for it.
Okay. So, I understand what you're saying, but in
oh
the
shit,
same
TikTok
way,
ended my live stream. I think I just got banned, guys. Sorry about that. Sorry to interrupt you, Phil. Guys, the TikTok stream did go down. I'm seeing some people in the YouTube chat say so. I didn't end it. TikTok must have ended my live. Apparently, some butthurt Christians must have reported me and they banned my account. So it looks like we're just streaming on YouTube now, friends. Sorry, go ahead.
Yep. So basically, you were saying that you haven't had any proof of any transcendental entity to exist in the first place. And so what I was about to say is, like, we haven't had any actual evidence of atoms existing. Like, I know you're going to say that's preposterous. Like, we have science demonstrates, we have experimental evidence that shows that repeatedly we have discovered and seen atoms. But if the entirety of our experience is actually what's happening in our brains, we have no actual way to confirm that the experience that we receive is actually happening. For all we care, we could be just a brain in a vat in a vastly different universe and be fed with all these rules.
You know that atoms have been observed, right?
Huh?
Atoms have been observed.
Oh yeah, no, but that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that it's not because we've observed it. It's not because there's a we in the first place that it actually exists. In the sense that, like, you have an experience, right?
Just to be clear, do you believe that atoms exist?
Yes and no. That's a very long question, but
yes and no. You got like a Schrodinger's cat type of atom?
Yeah, but I think that answering that right now would be too long, and that we're gonna get there eventually if we do get there.
But like, we have like an actual photograph of an atom.
Yeah. No, but that's what I'm trying to say, is that it's not because your brain has received the information that we have a photo of an atom that we actually have atoms. For the simple reason that there's nothing that proves philosophically that you exist outside of your own awareness of the information you receive. Like, you could not exist and just be a phenomena that experiences
so can you,
like images, and you could still believe in atoms because we've had
Phil, I'll stop you now. Hard solipsism is a dumb argument. It gets you nowhere. It gets me nowhere. Both of us are operating on the axiom that neither one of us are brains in a vat. If you're going to move to hard solipsism, then I'll just say by the same virtue, your argument is nullified by the same. So it's a dumb argument.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm not saying that it doesn't exist per se. I'm saying that we don't have a proof without any shadow of a doubt that it exists.
Nobody has proof of anything beyond a shadow of a doubt. There's always a shadow. There's always a possibility that somebody could be a brain in a vat. That's a useless point of argumentation. Both of us are operating on
though?
the axiom that we live in a real world and that we're not brains in a vat.
So why do you think it's a useless point of contention?
Because it's not a point of contention. We both agree that nobody ever can prove that you're not a brain in a vat. You could very well be me imagining you in my brain. I could be you imagining me in your brain. Neither one of us can prove beyond a shadow of a doubt that we're not brains in a vat. Therefore, it's a dead in the water argument. Because if being a brain in a vat kills my argument, it also kills your argument, which is why it's a wasted argument.
Let me think about that.
Reverting to solipsism always kills your own argument as well as your opponent's argument. At that point, all you've done is terminated the conversation.
I understand. Okay, so basically what you're telling me is that on one hand, you're not willing to consider the existence of, well, no, I'm putting words in your mouth. You're from your experience, you haven't had any sort of proof that there exist entities that are not made of the proverbial stuff that you talk of, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you're not willing to consider that the arguments on which and the experience on which you base that may not be real.
But again, if it's not real, then your argument fails too. Continuing to go to the empty well of solipsism ruins your argument as well as mine, which is why it's always a wasted talking point. You don't have a solution for it, and neither do I.
No, we agree.
Okay, so stop going to solipsism, because all you're doing at that point is admitting that your argument fails just as much as anything else.
Okay, sounds good. Let's take that for an agreement. So let's roll back then, and I'll try to find something else to talk about. Transcendentals, that's how you call them.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't believe in any in the existence of any concept beyond the brain itself, in the sense that like a concept that is not made out of stuff doesn't exist beyond the brain itself, how do you explain? And I'm asking that so that I can better understand your position and see how my position fits in. What is your like understanding of math, and for instance the either math or the scientific method, and how does that relate to the experience we've been able and the experimental results we've been able to have from these concepts?
Math is just a language, right? So it's something we use to express how the world works. That's it. We invented it.
Okay, so it's but do you agree that math, or at least physics, which is an implied version of math, is a set of rules that we've demonstrated that works in most experimental contexts?
Yeah, they're not rules. We call them rules, but all we're doing is we're creating a language that describes the way the universe works. That's it.
Correct. No, I understand what you're saying. But the question where I want to go with this is, if these rules that we've extracted from the universe as a language,
we didn't extract them from the universe.
Oh?
We did not extract rules from the universe.
So what would be the word you use?
We created rules to describe the universe. We didn't take them from the universe. We created them to describe the universe.
Okay, so we created rules to describe the universe. But these rules have shown repeatedly in experimental context to provide results that are accurate, correct?
I agree, yeah.
Okay, so wouldn't that, in a sense, make those rules also just as real as the subject that is being studied?
Yeah, they're real because our brains invented them, but they don't exist outside of our brains. They're concepts that our brains created. Just like if I create an image of my brain and then I draw it on a paper, the drawing that I made is real, but it's still just a derivative of my brain.
Well, that's where I think we disagree, because in a way, these rules that we've created to represent the universe, They are mirrors of relationships between different parts of the universe. And these relationships exist because otherwise we wouldn't be able to reproduce the same results over and over with the same rules, correct?
Yeah, we agree that the universe behaves in a particular way.
Okay, so there is some rules or relationships, however you want to call them, that exist within the universe that are close enough to our language, physics, so that we can make them out of the universe. And what I mean by
Again,
that
you
is that
keep
they
creating a
exist.
category error. There are no rules that exist in the universe.
Okay, why not?
Rules are things that we make. We make rules. We call them rules. They're just constants. They're just saying the way that the universe behaves, some of these ways in which it behaves are constant, meaning it just always behaves that way. But that doesn't mean there's a rule that the universe is obeying. That's us. We're describing the universe and we're calling it a rule.
Okay.
So
then
I just want to just give you a heads up. I know that you probably like philosophy.
Yeah.
Nobody here does. And you probably think that this is going to be a productive conversation. It won't. I've had this identical conversation with 100 people before you. So at this point, I'm hoping, and I know you're a nice guy, you're having a good faith conversation, so I don't want to short circuit the conversation.
I understand. If I'm not with the right audience or
I just want to fast forward the conversation, right? Because every point that you're bringing up is a point that we've all heard 1,000 times, and I've given this answer to all of these points 1,000 times. So I'm just hoping that you could bring something really good.
Well, I mean, I could try to give you like a quick summary of where I want to get with this.
Yeah, go ahead.
But okay, so basically, and if you can not interrupt me for like a minute or so, I'll try to get as fast as possible to the end point, and then you can toss me to the garbage if you want. That's fine. So basically, what I believe is that there is rules, beliefs, configurations, however we call them, things that are beyond the material stuff that you talk of, that are actual things about how the universe is encoded. And those things are, those rules allowed to create the emergent phenomenon that is reality. And so the farther you go down the line into simpler and simpler and simpler rules, the closer you get to something that could be called as God or could be declined as some kind of source for existence itself. And so that's the whole argument I'm trying to make. And so if that's something you've already heard and you're not interested in hearing more, that's fine.
Yeah. So I would just say that all of that is like imagination, right? So there's no idea that there's a consciousness that exists that is not just a derivative of a physical brain. We've never observed one. We have no reason to think that there is one. We have no reason to believe that there are transcendental rules or categories that exist independent of the actual brain. We've never seen one. We've never tested one. I would need evidence that such a thing existed before I went any further. Now, if there was evidence that something transcendental existed, I still don't think it would lead to God, but I don't even think that transcendentals exist.
Okay, I understand. So I don't think we can have a discussion that moves further because of what you just said. Not that it's a bad thing. Like, I respect your opinion.
Yeah, and like you're being super nice and courteous, and I super respect that. But you know, when you have the same conversation 1,000 times, sometimes you just want to speed it up.
I understand. So then, fine. I don't think we're going to get anywhere either. So, well, I thank you for giving me the time and also for cutting short because otherwise I think it would have been frustrating for the both of us. And thus, I wish you a good night.
All right. Thanks for being kind and thanks for coming and chatting, okay?
Ciao.
Cheers. Listen, he was nice. I feel like he's the type of guy I'd love to have a beer with. I'd love to go have a beer and shoot the breeze and talk about this stuff, but it's not compelling for a debate. Not going to go anywhere, and it's going to bore everyone to tears. But anyways, let me grab a couple of super chats, and then we're gonna get right into our next guest. Adam Brown, thank you for the super chat. Says I'm pretty sure he was singing Counting Crows with the sha la 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 Maybe. Also, got any tat ideas? Getting more soon. Well, if you're down in the Florida area, I would look up Johnny Barrios Tattoos. That'd be a place I would check out. And then as for tat ideas, listen, I just saw a great tat recently from our friend Adele of the Kraken. You should get a Kraken tattoo. That's where I'm putting my money. I don't know what tattoos cost because I don't have one because I've got commitment phobia. But put some money down and get yourself an awesome Kraken tattoo. Just get like the Kraken monster. Get them right on your back, or get them on your butt cheek even. Shit, get Doug tattooed on the inside of your groin. Put the stone next to your stones. That's what you should do. And Noah's Lions Ate Dead Babies on the Ark changed the image, beautiful image. Says, if I made a shirt, would you wear it on 1,000,000% I would. Listen, if you make me a shirt, Noah, and you send it to me, I'll definitely wear it on a live stream. I got you. And Johanna says, I'm sorry, but what's your name again? Yeah, lest we forget. Meg, thank you for the super chat, says, why don't you ever show that the Bible even has a section on slave costs? This is a fair point. There's actually another one in Exodus that talks a little bit about the cost of persons, but Leviticus 27 is a quintessential passage about the cost of persons that are being redeemed. Ironically, in Leviticus 27, guess what? It also talks about how women have a lower value than men in costing the individual. I'll show you. So here's verse 3. It says, the equivalent for a male shall be from 20 to 6 years of age. The equivalent shall be 50 shekels of silver by the sanctuary shekel. But let's grab the beginning of it, right? Of course, the ads are popping up. There we go. Speak to the Israelites and say to them, when a person makes an explicit vow to the Lord concerning the equivalent for a human being, the equivalent for a male shall be 20 to 6 years of age. If the person is a female, the equivalent is 30 shekels. So a woman's only half as valuable as a man. If the age is from 5 to 20 years of age, the equivalent is 20 shekels for a male, 10 shekels for a female. If the age is from 1 month to 5, so on. So if the person is 60 years or older, the equivalent, blah, blah, blah. If any cannot afford the equivalent, they shall be brought before the priest, and the priest shall assess them. The priest shall assess them according to so on and so forth. Now, what we're having here in the votive offerings, I wouldn't describe as slavery. These are redemptions of people. But there is an interesting section that most people aren't aware of. Give me a second to grab it real quick. I always forget what verse it is in 27. Did I already go by it? Let me see. There we go, 21. All right, 21 starts the section of devoted things, and then 28. Nothing that a person owns that has been devoted to destruction for the Lord, be it human or animal or inherited landholding, may be sold or redeemed. Interesting, human or animal. Every devoted thing is most holy to the Lord. No human beings who have been devoted to destruction can be ransomed. They shall be put to death. So you're allowed to kill people for the Lord, according to Leviticus 27. Now, I don't see any regulations in here about slave values. I think you might be confusing another passage about the redemption of people. I can look into that later when I'm not live streaming. But Meg, Leviticus 27 is a horrific chapter either way. And Newsy D says, as an ex-Jew, I have feels about coming to ex-Christians to learn why my religion is BS. Praise the rock of rocks, keeping us all rock hard and rolling. I get it. Like, if you're an ex-Jew and you're like, listen, I'm going to learn why my religion is bullshit from a guy who was never a Jew but was an ex-Christian, man, that's a hard experience. That's a hard and humbling experience. I would see why that would be a difficult ask, you know? And Evan says, when Christians ask what it would take for me to believe in Jesus, I say that Jesus told Thomas to finger his holes if that worked for him. Yeah. Listen, I'll make the same deal as Thomas. If Jesus shows up in front of me and lets me finger him, I'll believe. That's it. That's the goalpost. Oh my goodness. Mike Conscious with us tonight. Thank you so much. Thank you for the super chat. Says you're definitely the GOAT, brother. Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate your guys' support. Thanks for supporting my my evangelical atheism. Spencer says red hat merch. Magma. Make a great many atheists. I love it. We need to get I really need to talk to Crystal and do some new merch. Get some really cool merch going. I've kind of left Crystal and Benny and the others to do the merch on their own, but we've had a lot of good ideas come through the chat that I feel like we really need to bring to life in the merch shop. The merch shop is in our Deconstruction Junction Discord. And last super chat, Skeptic Goddess, thank you for the super chat, says Justin, clip part of the Yelling Christian and ask Mezzo and Joel to create your personal jingle. I'd help finance it. Oh my gosh. We absolutely need to send the best crash outs from my live stream and have Joel turn it into a song. I would personally pay them for that jingle. That would be amazing. I'm with you on that. All right, so we've got another guest. It looks like Anjay. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, how you doing, On?
I'm doing good, thank you. How about you, Justin?
I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. On, are you at least 18 and are you a believer?
Yes, to those correct. Both those questions.
Cool. What would be the most compelling evidence or argument for the God you believe in being real?
Yeah, I mean, well, one thing, I just actually kind of, this is like the first time I'm actually ever seeing this. I just kind of was scrolling on TikTok and I was like, sure, why not? Although before that was before it was shut down, I think I was hearing quite a few Justins being said over and over again. I was lucky I was not wearing headphones at the time, or else I probably wouldn't be here. But
he was special.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I guess something that kind of came up that was of interest to me. I don't know if you're familiar with what's going in the rounds of Christian TikTok with like the people saying there's a guy with the Antichrist wearing a beanie. Are you familiar with that at all?
No, I haven't done a good job recently of staying on top of the trends. I've just kind of had a crazy busy last month or two, but so fill me in.
Yeah, so I guess one of the things that's been happening is that there was a person who is claiming to be the to be the true Pope of God, and
there's two popes.
Well, yeah, and so the crazy thing is that he actually did this right before Pope Francis died, and then Pope Francis dies. It was kind of like I think within a 2-3 day window or something like that, and so that's like high coincidence there.
What did he do? I don't get it.
So no, he says that I am the true Pope. He released this thing. I mean, I guess if you want to look it up, the Ahmadi religion of peace and light, it's kind of new to the scene. But yeah, I mean it. I mean they have a lot of persecution, and it's like different from the Ahmadiyas, which is often confused between the two. But the Ahmadi religion and peace and light, you know, they've been having quite a bit of persecution in Turkey and Iran and stuff, all these other Islamic sort of countries, and so, yeah, but they're currently like based in the UK or whatever. So yeah. But yeah, so basically,
right. But I guess I missed the explanation. What are the claims being made about this religion that I should know about?
So the claim is that he is the true vicegerent of God.
What does that mean?
So that means essentially that you know, in the same way that I don't know if you're familiar with this proof on Christians by Muslims, but it's like. They say that Muslims say that Prophet Muhammad, he's mentioned in the mentioned by Jesus when he says, "I will send you another comforter," and then if you translate that backwards to Aramaic, that means Ahmed, and so Prophet Muhammad in the Quran says like, "Oh yeah, I am the Ahmed."
Gotcha. So word games.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, a little bit, and so so there's that, and then
how come God can't be more direct and just give you actual predictions than playing word games?
I mean, let me see. I mean, people always try to go for power, I guess. I mean, if you want to go back to Cain and Abel, I mean, Cain kind of was angry that Abel was the one that was chosen, then killed him. So.
Wait, but you don't believe in the Bible? Did I miss that? Did you say you were a Christian?
No, I didn't. I said that I'm part of the Ahmadi religion of peace and light.
That's what I thought. That's not Christian, is it?
It's not Christian, but it believes in Bible, Torah, Quran.
Well, that can't be true. The Bible and the Quran contradict each other.
Well, I mean, we also believe that the Quran is corrupt and that things have changed over time as well.
So the Bible is corrupt and the Quran is corrupt.
Yeah, because it's in the hands of humanity. So I mean, it's just like any other book.
We agree. Yeah. So why is your religion not corrupted?
Well, because that we have a person from God during this time and age. So, it's like if you have Jesus IRL versus Jesus in a book, like 1,000+ years later, those are going to be two different, things. I mean, if you go back like 5 years and try to get something from 5 years ago, you might get altered things, stories, events, and whatnot. So it's going to be two very different things.
Right, but how do you know that the Bible and the Quran were altered?
I guess I guess you can think about it logically. I mean, if you look at some of the historical events that happened after the death of Prophet Muhammad, there was a lot of upheaval. If you look in the hadith or sort of the history narrations and stuff by different people, a lot, like, there's the things that point to that.
What part of the Quran is true?
Huh?
What part of the Quran is true?
What part of the Quran is true? I mean, I remember from one thing, from the religion says that about there's only 1% of Islam that's like correct today, and that's like only like the prayer. So yeah, and then there's even things.
How did you come to that conclusion?
That's what the Ahmadi religion, peace and light, says in one of their books.
Gotcha. Okay, so the source of all of your opinions come from what the religion tells me.
Yes.
Yeah, but you understand that that's like, we call that indoctrination. Like, is there an external source that you can measure this with?
Like, in terms of why the Quran is like corrupt and stuff?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like, if you go back to like the hadiths and narrations and this and that, there's different accounts. I mean, you can think about it logically, like, okay, the people say, the Quran, God's going to be protecting the book, it actually says God will be protecting the reminder. The reminder, it's dhikr. What does that mean? So if you have to look at the word, it's like the reminder, it doesn't mean book. It could just mean the person that God chose. So,
yeah. Did your God create everything?
Huh?
Did your God create everything?
They actually have a very interesting, we have actually a pretty interesting belief where it's like God created like in the initial creations, and then those creations created. So it's interesting in that way. So then it's like,
so I'm hearing a yes.
Satan created the world.
Satan created the world?
Yeah. So that's pretty wild.
God's enemy.
Yeah. Well,
why?
Before God was. Well, I mean, before he was God's enemy, I mean, was it? It was I think it's just that God gives.
Wait, who created Satan?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Who created Satan?
Well, I guess like God did. Yeah.
So Satan couldn't have created God if God created Satan. So God created Satan. Why did God create Satan?
I think, what was it? It was because, I mean, God creates, period. Sort of that thing.
Yeah, but why specifically Satan? Why? Did he not know what Satan was going to do?
I mean, yeah, God knows, but God doesn't judge until somebody does something, sort of thing.
So then why did he create him at all?
Why did God create Satan if he knew Satan would do what he would do?
Right.
I mean, I was going to say out of mercy, right?
Mercy,
but then, like, what about hell then? That's not a nice ending.
Right. Yeah.
And then, but the thing is, but God also creates with free will. I think there is things in the baby gospels of Jesus, or not baby gospels. I think it's infant gospel something. But yeah, it's like
close enough. Yeah, the infancy gospels.
Yeah, and that like Jesus tried to create something and it almost killed him, and it's because everything kind of has free will. So
right.
But why would, going back to your question, why would God create something? And I guess I don't know. That's a good question.
Right. Fair enough. Yeah, I don't think there's a good answer for that. The answer for that always turns into a bunch of like circular talking, right? So, same with like the problem of natural evil, right? Like if you believe that your God created the earth, you have to come up with an explanation for why your God created natural disasters that, execute 100,000 people a year and injure even more. Little tiny babies get injured in natural disasters. Why does that seem necessary? So from my position, I'm saying, like, I'm looking around me, I'm seeing all this chaos. I think from my worldview, it makes more sense that we just live in a universe of chaos for a little tiny blip of time. Our existence will eventually be wiped out. The sun is going to expand and destroy us eventually in about 1 billion years. So the long arc of the universe is chaos. Eventually none of us are going to be here, right? That seems more parsimonious with why we have an earth that is actively hostile to its inhabitants. It doesn't seem to me that if there was a God that created this thing and he was good, he was loving, and he was like knowing and powerful, he wouldn't create this world.
Yeah, that actually reminds me, there was a hadith or a saying that when God saw this, I think it was like when God saw like this universe, he was almost like disgusted by it, and then he gave it or something like that,
right?
And then he gave it to Muhammad just to look over or something like that. But I'm very heavily paraphrasing it, and I might be getting some stuff wrong, but yeah, so it kind of fits with that, where it's just kind of it's kind of it kind of devolves in chaos and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I get that. Well, listen, friend, I had a good time talking to you. I'm going to try to get to another guest before it gets late. I don't have like a 6-hour stream tonight. Usually I stream for like 5 or 6 hours at a pop, but I'm out of town and I've got a really crazy schedule this coming week, so I can't stay up late. But I appreciate you coming up and chatting with me.
Can I share one thing that was interesting to me about this religion?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So one of the things is, it was fun, interesting that, they had a conversation about like talking about karma in their book, Goal of the Wise. And then they were saying like, what about, the creator thing, creator sort of, if you see something, it's made by a creator sort of thing. And then it's like, and then what if that doesn't work? Then it's like karma is basically what you can use as a proof. And then if that doesn't work, then there's really nothing that you can use. So I was just like, it was interesting to me to see it from that perspective, where they just kind of say like, yeah, it's just like, you have a place that stops. Like, you can't, as we saw in that previous conversation with other guests, where you can have like circular arguments where it's like we're in a vat in a brain in a vat or something. But yeah, I know. I thought that was just kind of interesting, where it's just like you have either that creator sort of theory. If that doesn't work, then you have karma. You can try to see if that and then if that doesn't work, then you don't really have anything to prove and creator.
So this is, I'm glad you mentioned this. This is the one thing about Islam that I do appreciate. If you read through, the hadiths are crazy, by the way, but if you read through a lot of the hadiths, there's quite a few of them that are inviting you to challenge the religion. Like they're encouraging you to test it, right? And I don't think you get as much of that in Christianity. So Islam is asking you, they're encouraging you to try it out, test it, see what happens, right? But obviously my personal experience is that everything I've been able to test shows that there's no God. But when evidence of God finds a way to get itself to me, obviously I would become a believer.
Okay, well, it was good having a conversation with you. And if you want to look into the book Goal of the Wise by the Ahmadi Religion, Peace and Light, it is kind of like an off branch of Islam, but it's still very different. So I don't know. I mean, I think you'll probably, if you put like Antichrist or something into YouTube, you're going to see a lot of videos about this religion because it just kind of came up right at Pope Francis. So I invite you to also kind of take a look at that and also have a good trip. And yeah, have a good one.
All right. Cheers. I appreciate it, bud. Nice young man. I hope he finds his way out of the religion. But when you're that age, it's easy to be sucked into things that sound convincing. Batgirl, thank you so much for the super chat and the triple bats. Hell yeah. Big W, big W. And Andrew Baker, unauthorized user. Thank you for gifting out 5 deconstructions of memberships. It's very generous. I really appreciate that. And guys, we finally are getting close. We're getting close to 1,200 YouTube members. We're so close. I think we might break it this weekend. So thank you so much for gifting out all the memberships. I would love to see a day where we could get to 1,500 memberships. That would be huge for the channel. That would be huge. Thank you for being here and for supporting and for helping the channel do what it does. I couldn't be here for all these long hours without supporters. And the Demonator says, if a poor craftsman blames his tools, what can we say about a craftsman that blames his own product? That's such a good point, because that kind of is the biblical narrative, this idea that like God created all this shit, but like the stuff that he created is acting up and it's like getting the better of him. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, golly gee, what can I do? Oops. Yeah, if a craftsman blames his tools, it's not his tools. It's because he's not good at his craft. There's a racist old saying about this that I only know because my father's Southern. He's full of like Southern things, right? He used to say, "It's not the Indian, it's not the arrow, it's the Indian," which is meanings like if you're shooting and you miss the target, it's not because you have a bad arrow. It's because you can't shoot. Josh, thank you for the super chat. It says, this super chat is from my brother, Mindful Barbarian. We listen to all your streams at work, whether customers like it or not. Well, thank you so much, Josh. I super appreciate that. And listen, we can be evangelical about our position as well. You don't have to be a Christian to be evangelical. We're going to be evangelical atheists. Big W. I appreciate that. And Angry Amalekite Infant, hell yeah. Thank you so much for the super chat. Super chat. I appreciate that. It says, is scripture God breathed? Because Isaiah 11:4 implies God has very bad breath. Yeah, he says in Isaiah 11, it's a classical messianic chapter where he says that the coming king, the branch of David, is going to kill all of the wicked with the breath of his lips. I agree. Whoever this is very bad breath. Possibly gingivitis. Maybe, probably. We'll see. We'll see about that. The Messiah never showed up, so we don't know if the Messiah's got bad breath. But welcome in to the conversation. Booyah. Mad Money reference, anyone? Booyah, are you with me? I was hoping for a booyah back. That is unfortunate. And they dropped. Must be here by accident. Okay, grab the next one. Welcome in, American.
Hey.
How you doing, American?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So, I'm not necessarily Christian, or like, I just don't believe anything, but I wouldn't consider myself atheist.
So you're like agnostic?
Like, yeah, like, I don't want to disprove other people's religions, because in my opinion, like, you can believe whatever you want to believe. I'll be respectful to you. But I have 2 questions.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, wouldn't it be better to believe in something rather than nothing?
No.
And number 2, if not, wouldn't it be better for us to just leave the people who do believe alone?
But I'm confused. Have I gone out and tracked down believers and telling them not to believe? As far as I can tell, they're coming to me.
No, I'm not saying that you're going out and like tracking down people to disprove their religion. It's just a question.
Yeah, but I'm not doing that. I don't believe that we should be going and finding Christians and believers and convincing them to not believe. I host a public forum where those people who want to convince me can come to my public forum and talk to me about it. I don't do what Christians do. I don't go door to door. I don't knock on people's doors and try to convince them of my position. I don't put people in government trying to force my laws on people.
Gotcha. And then for the first thing?
Well, the first thing was no. I don't think it's better to believe in things that are untrue. I think society is better when we believe as many true things as possible and we don't believe things that are untrue.
Gotcha. All right. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, cheers. Okay. All right, we'll get the next one in here. All right, it looks like... Is it Evan?
Yeah.
Welcome in, Evan.
Hold on, my dog is just pulling this shit out of me. What's up, dude?
Not too much. Evan, are you at least 18 and are you a believer?
Yeah, I am a Christian. Actually, I used to be a Jew. Before that, I was a secular kind of humanist. I think kind of like you are.
Sure. And what would be the most convincing argument or evidence for the Christian God being real?
So I would say the historical evidence of the New Testament is the best thing that we have. I mean, you have over 400 witnesses. You have non-Christian. I mean, between Mark, Luke, John,
Mark wasn't a witness.
Paul, huh?
Mark was not a witness.
Okay, Mark is written. Sorry,
yeah,
written
Mark
by a bunch of witnesses. It's written
Mark
in the
is
first
the cousin
century,
of Barnabas.
It was written in the first century.
So Mark didn't witness anything, right?
Who were close to. Can I finish talking, or are you going to talk over every guess you have?
So I don't talk over every guess. What I do
but
is
you're not
like
even letting me finish making a point.
When you make a point, sometimes I'm responding to the point rather than letting you yap about it. So Mark wasn't an eyewitness to anything. Mark was the cousin of Barnabas.
By being rude.
So Mark was the cousin of Barnabas. He wasn't an eyewitness. Do we agree on that?
Sure, but when did he live?
Supposedly, he lived roughly the same time as Paul.
Okay, and Paul saw Jesus after the death, according to him, right?
Well, according to him, I don't think he did. I think he had a near-death experience. I don't personally believe that the narrative we're getting in the book of Acts about Paul is legitimate. Okay, but we're not talking about your personal beliefs.
We're talking about historical evidence,
in Acts 22, it says that he received letters from the Sanhedrin to track down these Christians. And I've read the writings of the Sanhedrin. Okay, I don't see anything in the Sanhedrin about giving
Paul a real person?
About giving anyone papers to go and track down the Christians.
During the time of Jesus, yes or no?
Oh, I have no idea if he was a real person. I'm inclined to believe that he probably...
his letters? Do most historians agree that Paul is a real person who existed during the time of Jesus?
I'm inclined to believe that Paul was a real person. I don't have definitive proof that he was a real person. I'm willing to grant that he was a real person. What I don't grant is that the mythology written about him in the New Testament is true. For the same reason that I don't feel like the mythology about Jesus in the New Testament is true.
Dude,
so the fact that Paul existed and had a near-death experience to me,
somebody talk and have a debate with you, or are you just
isn't actually all that meaningful to me. So
I'm
not questioning whether or not Paul existed. I'm questioning whether or not Jesus is God.
Oh. Okay, but we can have that discussion, but you're not even letting me, you're not even giving me the grant of like, did Paul exist at the time of Jesus?
I already granted you that he was probably a real person. No, he wasn't a witness.
Okay, but could he be a credible person for what he said happened and then what he did after that, where he threw away his whole life, right? He was a high priest.
Yeah, he did. Well, he wasn't a high priest.
Well, he was a part. He was a part of the high Jewish order. He was basically Jewish royalty.
No, he said he was a Pharisee.
He was persecuting Christians.
He said he was a Pharisee.
Yeah,
and
he was a
again, I already
Pharisee.
told you, I don't believe that he was going and necessarily rounding up Christians under the order of the Sanhedrin. And the reason why I don't believe that is because I've actually read the writings of the Sanhedrin. I don't find any evidence in there that they were commissioning people to go round up Christians. That seems to be something that was happening many, many years later on behalf of the Romans, not the Jews.
So you wouldn't think the people following the Christians, so do you think that Jesus was a real person?
I think he was a real person, but I think the writings about him are largely mythologized, just like I believe there are other figures that are real. So I believe that Sennacherib was a real king. I believe that Ashurbanipal was a real king. I don't believe the mythology that is written about those particular individuals. Somebody existing in real life doesn't mean that the mythology written about them.
Can you stop going on like huge tangents, dude?
The fact that somebody exists in history doesn't mean that you need to accept.
Okay, but I'm not contending that. You're starting to go on.
The fact that somebody exists in history doesn't mean that the mythology about that person is true. For the same reason that you probably believe that Ramses existed, but you don't believe that Ramses was a demigod. Unfortunately, the Egyptians believed that he was a demigod. Do you see the difference?
The Egyptians!
Why are you shouting?
Why are you yapping?
It sounds to me
you're
like
you'd have a debate.
It sounds to me like you're not actually capable of having a conversation, and it certainly sounds
no, you're not because you don't
like
even
you're
let the second person
not full
talk,
of
bro.
the Holy Spirit. Because it sounds to me the Holy Spirit says
the Egyptians. See, if I just keep
you actually can't talk over me. I have the mute button. So the fruit of the Holy Spirit is joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. I didn't see any of that. Colossians 3:8 says, you must get rid of all such things: anger, wrath, malice, slander, and abusive language from your mouth. I'm not seeing from you like
your argument.
I'm not seeing from you anything that would, warrant an idea that you're actually a real Christian filled with the Holy Spirit that came here
I asked you one simple question
to actually debate
and you go on a 5-minute
topic.
Filibuster.
It wasn't a 5-minute filibuster. I was explaining to you why the existence of a human being doesn't prove that the mythology about the human being is real.
I wasn't making that argument that the existence of a human being means anything. I was just asking you one question. Do you acknowledge his existence? Yes or no? You don't have to go on a 3-minute answer.
I've already granted that I believe Jesus was probably a real person. I don't believe that the mythology written about him is true.
Well, obviously you don't believe that, but you're asking me what my best, and I'm not trying to convince you. I'm just more talking to your audience that this is.
Well, you're definitely not going to convince my audience.
Okay, but that's great. I'm not going to get to you either because you're not open to even having your mind changed to anything.
No, I am open to changing my mind. That's how I became an atheist. I used to be a Christian, except when I was a Christian, I was a better example of a Christian than you. I became an atheist because my mind was open. See, I didn't have a life of an atheist. I had a life of a Christian. And then when I was presented with actual evidence, I became a non-Christian, and then eventually I became an atheist. So listen, if you can present some evidence that would legitimately prove that Jesus is the Messiah and that the Bible is true, I'd be more than willing to admit that the Bible is true.
As much as you can prove the Big Bang Theory.
Well, the Big Bang has nothing to do with whether or not the Bible is true. So that's a completely irrelevant topic. I could care less if the Big Bang actually happened.
You're so bad at having a two-way discussion. It's ridiculous. Like
it's so crazy that you crash out every time I say something. It's almost like you're terrified to let me.
Rude and disrespectful.
It's almost like you're terrified to let me speak on my own live stream.
At least let the ideas be presented of the other side if you want to have a real debate.
You aren't presenting anything. What you're doing is you're asking questions, and when then
you're filibustering.
When I answer questions, you crash out because you're a child.
What's the longest you've had?
It's okay if you're not capable of engaging in adult dialogue.
What's the longest? What's the longest time you've
It's okay that your mother actually didn't teach you how to have a conversation.
Now my mother.
Yeah, she'd be embarrassed if she was watching this particular conversation.
You're really great.
You're embarrassing your entire lineage right now. I would tell her to stay off the internet. That's because this is going to be. This is going to be posted.
Isn't even capable of.
This is going to be posted on YouTube for all of eternity. All right, let's see if we can get this conversation back on track. I'm still waiting for the evidence that the Christian God is real. Do you have any?
Yes.
Cool. What is it?
Okay, so the Christian evidence would be that there were over 400 witnesses
There
that
weren't.
saw the resurrection. Can I make a point or no?
I mean, I'm going to tell you the same
Can
thing.
Can I go and present my evidence?
So I'll help you out. Okay. So whether you say there are 400 witnesses now and then say 10 other things, or you say there are 400 witnesses and end there, I'm going to have the same exact response. No matter what comes out of your mouth after you mention 400 witnesses, none of it, nothing that comes out of your mouth will ever change my response to the fact that there were 400 witnesses. And the reason why nothing is ever going to change my response of the 400 witnesses is because you're making a claim about what is written in 1 Corinthians 15 that is not true and you haven't read.
Okay, but if you ask historians, many historians agree that that number is an accurate number of the amount of witnesses. Yes, they do, dude.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. There are plenty of theologians. Look it up on ChatGPT right now.
Name one.
How about that? Look it up on ChatGPT
Name one.
right now. Look at it. You don't care what I have to say.
Name a single scholar.
What? Name a scholar?
Yeah.
I don't know a scholar off the top of my head that says
Then
that.
how do you know what they believe?
Why would I memorize the scholar's
How do you know what scholars believe if you can't even name one?
Okay, name me a scholar that disagrees with it.
I would say pretty much all the New Testament scholars that I know of. I would say James Dunn. I would say Bart Ehrman. I would say probably David De Silva.
Where James Dunn disagrees with it.
Oh, I never said that I knew exactly in which book he would disagree with it. What I'm saying is that there are New Testament scholars that agree. First of all, they would agree that first of all you're wrong, right? It doesn't say 400 witnesses, but they agree with me that the 400 witnesses, actually 500 witnesses, aren't named. We have no evidence that 500 people saw the resurrected Jesus. The only people that are named are the disciples and some of the women.
Okay. And why would you use a woman as a credible witness in the first century?
Why wouldn't you?
Because women wouldn't be credible witnesses in a story about trying to confirm the resurrection. Yeah, 100%. In the first century, you would use a woman as a credible witness?
Well, first of all, the women weren't. The story wasn't dependent on the women, and second of all, yes, women could be witnesses.
It was dependent on the women. The women were the first ones to see the empty grave.
It wasn't dependent on them. The disciples went to the grave after them.
Okay, but why would you have the first people be women? If you wanted to make a story, make up a mythos to convince people, why would you say, oh, the first people that saw Jesus, that he was missing from his grave were women?
Because women are the first people who do visit the graves. In real life, when somebody dies, women go to the grave before the men because they have to spice the body. So the way the customs work is that the women were in charge of spicing and wrapping and caring for the dead body, and the men were not. So women were the ones that were going to be going to the tomb to spice the body, not men. That's why women were at the tomb first.
Sure. I still don't think first century people would use women as a credible witness.
They did.
If you wanted to say, hey, the resurrection happened. And what other story does that happen?
I'm not talking about stories. I'm talking about in real life. You can just read about Roman life. Women in the Roman
narrative, where do they use women in the first?
Women in the Roman women in the Roman government were not seen the way they are in in the Quran. Like women were not like
the Quran wasn't around
less than
the Quran wasn't written until 600 AD.
I never said it. Never said it was. Pay attention,
We're
child.
talking about first century.
What I'm saying is that the idea of women being witnesses in the nation of Rome, in the capital, has nothing. It's not comparable the way that they're treated in the Quran. In the Quran, two women are equal to one.
Why are we talking about the Quran, dude?
Crazy that you can't let me finish a statement. So in the Quran, women are treated as two of them needed to be equal to the value of one man. What you're suggesting is that in ancient Rome, we have a similar idea that women weren't credible witnesses. We don't have anything from ancient Rome that would demonstrate that women couldn't serve as witnesses.
Do we have anything from ancient Rome that shows that women are used as credible witnesses?
Yeah, we have a shit ton of legal documents and historical documents from ancient Rome demonstrating that legal cases were performed with both male and female witnesses.
Okay, and what correlation does that have to do with a religious text talking about?
You brought it up, not me.
That came. Okay, but you're like arguing and making an argument that I'm not making, dude.
No, the argument you're making is that women weren't
These are
good
Jews.
witnesses.
These aren't even...
People didn't believe that women could be witnesses. Therefore, it doesn't make sense that women were in fact witnesses to the dead, Jesus, and the resurrection, when in fact it was both women and male witnesses. And the women came first because they had to spice the bodies prior to the men getting there. That's all it is.
Sure, but if it's a mythos, right? If it's made up, then cool, they account for that. You know what? If we're going to make up the story that we're all going to die for right now, let's make sure the first witnesses are women, because that's who spices the bodies.
But the testimony doesn't depend on the women. The testimony depends not on the women. It depends on the entire group claiming to have seen what was witnessed. Sure. The women just happened to be the first people there. That's it.
Sure, but it doesn't. But usually women wouldn't be who you'd want to use as your first credible witnesses.
It doesn't. It doesn't matter if you're making up a story. You need the women to be there before you. You need the women to be there to spice the body, because in real
they could have saw Jesus later.
In real life, because in real life, women would have been there. Dead bodies were spiced. Dead bodies were wrapped and cared for. This was something that women did. It wouldn't be out of place to write a narrative about a dead body that was spiced by a group of women.
Okay, so how do you explain the connection of Psalm 22 and the crucifixion of Christ?
There's no connection. Psalm 22 doesn't mention crucifixion whatsoever.
Okay, so read it.
Sure. What part? 16 and 17?
No, read it from the beginning. First off, what were the last words that Jesus said on the cross?
Well, it depends on which gospel you read. One gospel says, "Into your hands I commend my spirit," and one says, my God, why have you forsaken me?"
Okay,
and there's another one that reads a little bit different. Okay, Psalm 22 starts out. Psalm 22 starts out declaring that it's a psalm that was written by King David.
Okay,
it's not a prophecy; it's a psalm. Theoretically, well, if David wrote it, then it was written during his lifetime. So about 1000 BCE is roughly when King David lived. And it starts out, my God, why have you forsaken me? Why are you so far from helping me? From my words, or from the words of my groaning, so on and so forth. So we all know Psalm 22.
No, read the whole psalm, please. If it has nothing to do with the crucifixion,
none of it is prophetic.
Okay, read the whole thing then.
The part that you want me to read starts in verse 16. You want me to read the part that you like?
Sure, read the whole thing, or read whatever.
For dogs are all around me. A company of evildoers encircle me. They bound my hands and my feet. I can count all my bones. They stare and they gloat over me. They divide my clothes among themselves, and for my clothing they cast lots. But you, O Lord, do not be far from me.
Were the Roman soldiers gambling over, according to the gospel, were the Roman soldiers gambling for his clothes?
According to the narrative, and that's what happened when somebody was. That's what happens. That's what happens when people were captured in war. So Psalm 22 isn't a prophecy just because something that David describes.
Read the rest of it.
Psalm 22 doesn't become prophetic just because something that David described.
Why do you not want to read the rest of it?
I'm trying to make a statement. Why are you afraid of me talking? Why are you terrified of me talking? Why are you so scared of me explaining why I don't believe that Psalm 22 is a prophecy? That you're terrified. You're interrupting. You can't handle it. So I'll just mute you. So just because something in a psalm sounds similar to something that happens to somebody else later doesn't make it a prophecy. In fact, Psalm 22 has nothing to do with Jesus. This is about King David. In fact, when King David was on the run, it even says that he was going up the mountain barefoot. This idea that King David is likening his own suffering to somebody fallen in battle is not unique, and it certainly isn't a prophecy. A prophecy is an actual form of speech where somebody has to say, this is what's going to happen. God is giving you an utterance, and the utterance says that this is the information being revealed. A prophecy is not, well, King David wrote about something and it sounds similar to something else. That doesn't make it a prophecy.
Okay, can you finish reading it then?
Nothing in verses 19 to the end. Why are you so afraid
to read it?
Because none of it's relevant to what you want.
Okay, I'll read it for you since you're so afraid to read it for your viewers.
Go ahead and get me to the part in verse 19 to the end where it talks about Jesus.
I will. Let me open it up.
This is going to be a painful experience for you.
Oh, man, it's so painful. You're just owning me so hard, dude.
You're owning yourself is what's happening.
Yeah, I know. I feel so embarrassed.
You should be embarrassed. I'd be embarrassed if I was you.
The last words that Jesus said on the cross just happened to be the opening of a psalm that many. Okay, you can't.
That doesn't make it a prophecy,
dude. Why are you so controlled by Satan that you can't let me finish one thought?
I'm not controlled by Satan. What I'm saying is
you are because you're so
the point that you're about to give. We've all heard 4,000 times. The fact that
maybe your
Jesus
I
quoted,
don't know why you're
they know the Bible better than you do. So the fact that Jesus quoted verse 1 doesn't make it a prophecy.
But it's thousands of years in between, and so I guess that just happens to be a coincidence for you.
It's not a coincidence. Why do you think that somebody reading the book? Why do you think that somebody? Why do you think that somebody reading the book is unable to quote it? The question isn't whether or not Jesus could quote a line from a psalm. Quoting a line from a psalm does not make the psalm a prophecy. Do you even understand?
King David said.
Do you even understand the problem? Do you understand that quoting from a psalm isn't magical?
Do you understand that the last words of just to you, a mere human, who's been nailed to a cross after been hit with a nine tails over 700 times, and
show me that in the Bible. Show me where he was. Show me where he's hit 700 times.
As the king of the Jews.
You keep making stuff up. Show me where he. Show me where he was struck 700 times. Show me.
Right now is the best time for me to just quote. Can I finish reading Psalm 22, or are you so afraid to let your viewers hear it?
I asked you to show me the part in Psalm 22. I asked you
coming to Jesus.
You're not converting. You're not converting a single person here tonight.
Okay,
I asked you to show me in Psalm 22 where there's anything a prediction for the future.
Okay, can I read it?
I've literally asked you to do it, and you didn't do it. Go ahead and read it.
Okay, so let me read it then. Now that we're done arguing.
We're definitely not done arguing.
Here we go. So I'm going to start from 11. But to me, it's interesting that
you wanted to read all of it. Read all of it.
Can I talk, dude?
No, you wanted to read all of it. I'm going to make you read all of it. This was your request, not mine.
Okay, I'm going to read all of it. But
read every last word.
My point of view. Also, while I'm reading it, is that okay if I can make comments during it? Is that okay with you?
You're more than welcome to make comments if you need to.
Okay. Will you at least mute your microphone so I can get through the whole thing instead of interjecting and stopping this from happening?
I certainly will not mute my microphone.
Okay. Will you be quiet till I finish?
Well, I'll certainly be quiet to let you cook yourself. Go ahead.
Okay. Let me cook myself. So, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? So to me, it's interesting that this was written in 1500 AD, about 1300 AD during King David, and this is the last thing that Jesus
BCE.
said. Yeah, 1100. Thank you. You're right.
You said 1500 AD. That's 500 years
BC.
ago.
My bad. I you're right. Sorry, I'm a little amped up. You get me amped up, dude.
I think you get yourself amped up.
Yeah, I know, but this is like kind of exciting for
Maybe
me.
You should have the power of the Holy Spirit and not get amped up like this.
It's hard, dude. It's really hard.
What's hard about it?
I mean, it's still an emotional thing, right? If someone's like interrupting you while you're trying to make a thought, I guess it's kind of easy to get amped up, you know?
But you're the one interrupting. You're the one that can't have a conversation.
No, but you've been going on like this. Why you... Come on, dude. Let's just do this thing. Why are you trying to go on a tangent again?
Go ahead. I'm listening.
Okay. So around 1100 BC, before Christ, or what's the actual BC stand for?
Before Common Era.
Before Common Era. My God, why hast thou forsaken me? Again, I find this interesting because this is the beginning of a psalm written 1100 BC-ish that is the last line that some people say is just a mortal man hanging on a cross after getting beaten mercilessly to the point of non-recognition. And he decides that he's going to say a psalm, which also kind of paints the picture of the coming of him. And people argue that the Old Testament kind of points to Jesus, the coming of Jesus a lot, and the New Testament is the fulfillment of that. So you find a lot of parallels between his life and that.
Not a single thing in the Old Testament predicted Jesus.
I mean, that's just your opinion, dude. But
no, it's true.
Okay. So why art thou so far from helping me, and from the words of my roaring? O my God, I cry in the daytime, but thou hearest not, and in the night season, and am not silent. But thou art holy, O thou that inhabitest the praises of Israel. Our fathers trusted in thee. They trusted, and thou didst deliver them. They cried unto thee, and were delivered. Also, it's pointed out that Jesus is the son of King David by bloodline, right?
He
And
wasn't, though.
when you read the New Testament,
he wasn't descended from King
Sure.
David.
Yeah, because you're going to say Joseph's not, but through Nathan,
Yeah, Joseph.
Scholars
Joseph
agree
isn't
through
the father
Nathan
of
that he
Jesus.
is. Scholars agree through Nathan.
Joseph wasn't the father of Jesus.
Okay. And
you said by
anyway,
blood.
So
he's obviously not the descendant of King David by blood. If Joseph, it's not a theological argument. It's just logically true. If your father is descendant from King David, but he adopted you, then you're not by blood of the lineage of David.
Okay, cool. Anyway, so some scholars say that through Nathan he is, and some people say that Joseph was still his father. Regardless, that's why the lineage is there in the beginning of the New Testament. So they trusted and thou hast delivered them. They cried unto thee and were delivered. They trusted in thee and were not confounded. But I am a worm and no man, a reproach of men and despised of the people. And they see me and they laugh me to scorn. And some people say this is drawing the Roman soldiers were laughing at him. And there's also another part later that says in the next few lines, because there was a sign on the cross that said, Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews, as mockery, right?
Cool story, though, but this is about King David. This is not a prophecy.
Okay, but I'm saying that in these lines, this is what people say point to Jesus.
But it doesn't. Okay. It points to King David. King David wrote it in the first person about
interpret it as that. Can I finish reading?
It's not my opinion. It literally says, to the leader, according to the deer of the dawn, a psalm of King David. So King David is writing, saying, my God, my God. So all I have to go on are like grammatical cues, right? When the grammar says that, my God, why are you forsaking me? And I know that the person writing is King David. I know that the person writing wrote a bunch of psalms very similar to this. I have no reason to believe that is anything but a psalm of lament of King David, just like his other psalms of lament.
But isn't King David isn't this written by the Holy Spirit through him?
No.
Okay, but that's your opinion. Some people would say it is.
Well, shit, that's your opinion. I don't care.
That's our argument.
But I'm not a believer. You have to demonstrate that to be the case. So you would have to find a reason other than magic to convert this to a prophecy. You don't have one. All you have is magic.
I'm sorry that you don't have God in your life. You've chosen not to.
Well, I'm sorry that you don't have logic in your life, that you've chosen irrationality and magic. I haven't done it.
This is perfectly logical.
So your whole argument is Psalm 22 sounds like Jesus, therefore it's a prophecy. And just because something sounds like something else doesn't make it a prophecy. That's the sharpshooter fallacy.
Okay, I love it. I love the sharpshooter fallacy.
I don't think you do love it.
Around my bullets right now. So let me finish, please. For your audience. So
my audience would cook you just as fast as I do.
That he would deliver them. That's what happens. That's the narrative.
Did Jesus trust that he would be delivered from the cross?
If you're crying out to your God, why isn't he taking you off the cross?
Did Jesus trust that he would be delivered from the cross?
Huh?
Go ahead. I'm listening.
So that's what the Romans are saying, that he trusted on the Lord that he would deliver him. Let him deliver him, seeing he delighted in him. But thou art that he took me out of the womb.
But Jesus and his lack of deliverance is different than what Psalm 22 is saying.
No, he trusted in the Lord that would deliver him. Let him deliver him. That's what the Romans said.
I know.
You don't see the parallel?
But David is looking for a real deliverance, and Jesus was not. Jesus wasn't looking to be delivered from the cross. He was looking to be delivered in real life.
Okay.
There's no parallel.
There's no parallel.
And again, even if there was a parallel, it's completely meaningless.
It's just completely random.
Just because something that happened to David sounds similar to something that happened to Jesus does not make it a prophecy. This type of nonsense happened all the time in the ancient Near East. People were captured. They were mocked. They were made fun of. Their clothes were stolen by their captors, so on and so forth. This is not unique.
Okay. But it's not interesting that a mortal man, according to you, on the cross, reported by an apostle who was there, points to Psalm 22, which has eerily similar links to
it's
the
meaningless to me because Jesus knew the Psalms. If he was a Jewish teacher,
but why would
he
he start with that line while he's like, dude,
if
if
Jesus was a Jewish teacher, he would know the Psalms, and as he's struggling on the cross, obviously he would quote one of the most well-known passages of poetry from all of the Hebrew Bible, which would be the Psalms of David. The Psalms of Lament were the most well-known parts of the Hebrew Bible other than the Torah for the first century Jews. So yeah, I'm not surprised at all that as Jesus was on the cross, he said, my God, why have you forsaken me? Also, fun fact, we don't have any evidence that he actually said those words. Again, you just have to trust that the New Testament is telling you true things, and I don't trust it. But even if he did say those words, I have no reason to believe that he meant that Psalm 22 was a prophecy. And even if he did believe that Psalm 22 was a prophecy, you can't demonstrate that it actually is a prophecy. You're starting at the destination and you're doing the sharpshooter fallacy. You're saying it is a prophecy because Jesus said it's a prophecy, but you have to start at the beginning. You have to demonstrate first that it's a prophecy.
1,200 years later, just a coincidence.
It's not a coincidence. I can quote the text from the Bible too, and I'm 2005. I'm 2005. The cross has nothing to do with Psalm 22. There's nothing about crucifixion here.
They pierced my hands and my feet.
That's not there.
What?
What's the Hebrew word for pierce?
Where is it?
You won't find it because it's not in the passage.
Oh, you know Hebrew now?
Yes.
Oh, talk to me in Hebrew, please.
The Hebrew word is dakar. That means pierce.
Okay, and what's the Hebrew word there?
The Hebrew word there isn't a real Hebrew word. The Hebrew word that you have, you nailed it. The Hebrew word that is in the text is a mistake. It's a copyist error, which is why every translation of the text has something different. That's why in the Jewish translation, it'll say like a lion, because that's what's in most of the Masoretic texts. It says like a lion, ka'ari. Some texts, like in the Dead Sea Scrolls, it says ka'aru. The problem is that ka'aru is not actually a real word in Hebrew.
Okay, can you pull it up?
Pull what up? What do you want to see?
Pull up the Hebrew Psalm 22, the original Psalm 22, and let's look at it.
Yeah, I'll show it to you. Hold on.
What line is that? Where is it? Where my hands are? Where's the hands and feet? Okay, that's gonna be line 17. Psalm 22:17.
Okay. Can you see the screen or no?
Here, let me go over to your screen. Okay. Where are you? Okay.
So in the Masoretic text, it says ka'ari, which means like a lion. It does not mean they pierced.
Okay,
it's not even third person.
Original text, though.
There is no original text. That's why I'm telling you. We have no original text
of Psalm 22. We don't have any Hebrew or Greek.
The oldest text we have is from the Nehal Hever scroll system, which is from the Judean desert. And it doesn't say ka'ari, it says ka'aru, and ka'aru isn't an actual word. It's a misspelling. It's a misspelling of a word, and nobody knows what the actual word is supposed to be.
Isn't it that the Jews claim that every copy of the Old Testament has to be written exactly from a previous one?
No, that's not real.
That's what I've been told.
That's mythology. You've been lied to.
Okay. So
Where'd he go? We lost him. He yapped so much he got raptured. We'll see if he comes back. We'll give him a minute. I don't see him on the screen. Hold on, where'd he go? Did he drop out? No. All right, we'll give him a minute. He'll come back. He'll come back. We'll give him a second. We'll give him a second to see if he comes back. I don't see him coming back. I don't know what happened to him. I think his equipment died, but here's the scroll from the Nechahever collection. And what you'll discover is that there is a misspelled Hebrew word. Ka'aru, yadi, is not spelled correctly. Ka'aru is misspelled. It is possibly the word kara misspelled, which means like they dug or they burrowed. Typically, it is never referred to as pierced. This is misspelled as well. This H or hey at the end of it doesn't actually exist in the proper spelling of the word. So we got two words in a row that are misspelled. And so nobody knows what is in the original text, which is why all of the text that we do have of this particular, hold on, why is my browser not showing what I want to show? Of this particular script, I'm gonna get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this. There we go. All the texts we have of this have something different in it. Some of them say ka'ari, some of them say ka'aru, some of them say ka'aru with an ayin rather than an aleph. Every manuscript we have of Psalm 22 has something different because everyone's trying to guess what was in the original text, since the oldest text we have is corrupt. It's not actually in there. Okay, well, listen, I don't think he's actually coming back, and it's 10:10, and he's a belligerent prick anyways. So I'm going to read a couple super chats, and then I think it's probably time to hit the road. I got to get to bed in the morning. I got to get to bed now and wake up in the morning. Mike says the King James like nails on a chalkboard. Yeah, pretty much. The guest was pretty unbearable to listen to, but it was interesting to have a shouting match with a uneducated bloke who thinks that I'm just up here lying to people. Adele, thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate that. W for the super chat and W for the Kraken says, missed the shout out. Heard you're in the Kraken. Cheers. I am. Listen, I'm already imbibing in the Kraken. Thank you so much, Adele. Thank you so much, Josh, for supplying me with some Kraken tonight so we can power this live stream. I really appreciate it. Thank you, friends. And Wild Willie Tex, thank you for the $20 super chat. Says, for spending SM time in the kitchen, some time for us in the kitchen to watch. Well, thank you for supporting the mission that we're all on to deconvert people from these toxic religions. And Match Energy said he yaptured. Yeah, he did yapture. Don't worry, he'll be back. He's so confident in his bad talking points, you know he'll be back eventually. And Steven, thank you for joining the Kraken Crew Elite. I really appreciate that. And a last one from G. G says, not a surprise that 40 years later, a devout, knowledgeable in scripture would quote a fucking psalm. yeah, that's what I'm saying. There should be no shock. There should be no surprise that somebody on a cross can quote a psalm. It's not a surprise that somebody can quote from a book that is describing something that you can identify with. You don't need anything for that. That's ridiculous. Anyways, who's live right now that we can go raid? Give me a second to see who's live. And let's go. We're going to go raid somebody and see what's going on. Who is live right now? Cyber Deconstruction just started his live, it looks like. I want to pull open Cyber Deconstruction's screen. Let's go raid Cyber Deconstruction, friends. This is the live stream. It looks like he just got it kicked off. Let's see. I don't see how many people are in there, but he's got some people in there, I'm sure. Let me see. Does it say how many people are watching? Shit, I don't know how many people's watching, but let's go into Cyber Deconstruction's live stream and let's pump it up. Let's pump it up, friends. There we go. Cyber Deconstruction is the channel. Cyber Deconstruction. Why is this super chat still up? Sorry. Cyber Deconstruction is in fact the channel we're looking for. A good friend of mine. Let's go give him a Doug and Justin raid. I'm going to be over there in just a moment once my browser actually gets with the program. Looks like he's got 6 people that just popped in. Let's go in. I see people popping in right now. Let's go raid Cyber Deconstruction's live stream. I'll see you over there. I'll chirp in the comments with you here in just a few minutes. Guys, thank you so much for joining me and for being part of the live stream. I really appreciate it. Appreciate all the chats and all the super chats, and I appreciate the shares and all the comments. I really do love and appreciate this community. It's the best community on the internet, and I couldn't be here